It's a Friday afternoon here on Danny and Dusty. No Dusty. Dusty out until next Wednesday. Will Ortner filling in. What's up? Jeff Russ behind the glass.
Ciao, Belly.
It's a wonderful Yacht Rock Friday.
It certainly is.
This is the ideal Yacht Rock Friday because it's also officially the first day of summer.
Okay.
I know it's not, but Memorial Day is the start of summer, and I won't hear anything different from anybody else. It's like Labor Day's the official like start of fall. Probably Thanksgiving is the start of winter.
See, now when you say official, though, it's technically the unofficial start.
Sir,
It's officially the unofficial.
No, we're doing the Will Ortner calendar. We're not doing the whatever.
That's like when
Julius
somebody
Caesar
says,
calendar.
literally, my head exploded. Well, no, your head didn't literally explode.
No, but according to the Will Ortner
Figuratively.
No. You're not abiding by the Will Ortner calendar. You're abiding by the normal Julius Caesar calendar or whatever Roman guy calendar. The Will Ortner calendar, summer starts today.
Gotcha.
Summer starts now. It's like St. Patty's Day. That's the start of spring.
The reminder that I have to kind of reinforce in my head is that we're off on Monday.
Yeah.
It's one of those that we actually get off.
Oh.
There you go. I don't complain about much in my job because I legitimately, since I've started doing this full time, I've never gotten up once and been like, I don't want to go to work. My one complaint is that the holidays, most of them, we have to work.
Right.
Unless it's like the big, the big
Right.
four.
Yeah.
Otherwise, whenever it's like, oh yeah, no, that's cool that you guys are on the radio. No, it's not.
Yeah. We don't want to be
No,
here.
it's not. It's not cool that we're here and you're home or you're out running errands, having fun, chilling.
Yeah.
That is my one and solo complaint of this gig. That is it. So every time we get one, it's like an actual day off. I'm like, oh,
That's right.
we
get
get
it
that
out.
one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you're about to lose one here in about a year or two.
Which one?
President's Day.
Whoa. What, we're getting rid of that now?
Well, that's going to turn into the Monday after the Super Bowl. You're crazy if you think we're not doing shows the Monday after the Super Bowl.
It's one of the biggest literal radio days of the year.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know why they didn't just
And see, look,
do
I
this
used
from the
literal
start.
correctly.
Right?
Because it is
Again,
quite literally one of the biggest radio days of the year.
it's probably the biggest.
It might be.
I used it correctly if you go according to the Will Ortner calendar.
Mm.
We just don't.
Is that like the Mayan
It's-
calendar? Except dumber?
No, I don't have people die. I don't have the world ending.
Mm.
So I think you can make the argument it's smarter. It observes all the other calendars. It's just like the official holidays are different, if that makes sense.
No.
Like the start of summer, the official day is sooner. It's Memorial Day. Everybody knows that once you hit Memorial Day, it's summertime. It's time for, more happy hours. You're able to, I don't know, sneak into work with sandals on. You're able to have more Fridays where you take the
Sneak
afternoon
into
off.
work? Brother, I proudly announce it.
Okay, most people probably sneak into work. You're proud of your Crocs. Most people
Oh.
sneak in.
Hey, look, when it gets warmer, I'll switch to the full-time open toesies.
Ooh,
Little thong for the feet.
there you go.
Also, is that a age thing?
What do you mean?
Not calling the sandals that split your big toe? a
Yeah, I don't
thong?
know when it crossed from, because when I was a kid,
Those
there
are
were thongs.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw on my
Yeah,
thongs and go out
but
there.
you never hear
Everybody says sandals now.
Yeah,
well,
you
or
just call 'em-
flip flop.
Or flip-flop, yeah.
Yeah, I've always called it flip flop or sandal. The one where it doesn't have the thong in the middle.
Those
are
slides.
slides.
Yeah, no. That's the thing is we're properly calling them slides.
Right,
But why are we calling the other ones sandals? Like they're
because that's what they're called.
thongs.
Eh.
I assume that change happened around the proliferation of the other kind of thong.
Probably right around
the
the
thong song?
time. Yeah, I was gonna say right when the thong song came out is probably when people stopped. Because like, if I told my buddies I'm gonna go into work tomorrow with my flip flops on, it's a lot different than me being like, can't wait for tomorrow. Gonna wear my thong, going to work.
So you went singular. It's not thong. It's thongs. Gonna wear my thongs.
Yeah, I don't know.
See,
dude.
that's-
Flip-flop. If I told,
See, that's how you keep stupid people away is you use correct vernacular.
nah, You can't say you're going into work wearing your thongs, dude. Not anymore.
I'm bringing it back.
I don't know that
I'm
you can
bringing it
bring that back.
I'm bringing it back. I don't care. I'm bringing it back.
Like you can bring back the dab. I don't know that you could bring back the thong for slides.
I don't like this.
What do you
I don't-
mean?
I don't like. No,
Bringing
no.
back the dab? The
Th-
dab's
th-
a great
especially
dance.
especially not that.
Why? Why
but-
are you hating on the dab?
I'm not anti or pro dab. I mean, if you, whatever you want to do in your free time is up to you. You know.
You're neutral dab.
Yes, I'm dab neutral. There you go. But yeah, no, I'm bringing back thongs. Interestingly
Good for
enough, I was scrolling through social media the other day, and
Saw some
there
thongs.
no, and this is how I know we're getting older, Jeff. They were doing like my TikTok has turned to like anthology research music.
Okay.
So one of them was like on like how Papa Roach came up with Last Resort, and it's really dark and depressing. It's eye-opening. Also very cool how the piano part of it that like led to the stylisting of it. Like I know this is a total tangent, but then the next thing I scrolled to was the guy who did the violin on the thong song. And like how he came up with it and how like the where it all kind of came together, and it was just like, this is very cool, and I could watch this for hours on end. Like I want more documentary style research done on the proliferation of songs from like 1994 to 2001. Like every single one of them. Like it's always interesting to me when you get the stories from all of the Hollywood superstars about Kanye, like rolling in before he was famous.
Oh, the Dave Chappelle story is the best.
I mean,
one.
there's Jay-Z has one like that. There's a T-Pain has one like that. Like
Right.
they're all the same thing. Like he's a musical savant and he was absolutely out of pocket, but then he made some really dope beats and we're like, man, this guy's incredible. Like
Yeah, he's awesome. And then like 10 to 15 years later, when he's not making as good of beats, you're like, yeah, he's got some weird ideas.
well, I mean, let he who has not tried to marry the exact same copy of his wife cast the first stone.
I'd have to get a wife first, but I'll let you know in about 10 to 15 years if I try that one.
It's an interesting one.
Like, don't worry, baby. This is for Kanye.
I don't know, man. But yeah, no, I can go down that rabbit hole of that particular genre of documentary type stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like what I assume VH1 Behind the Music was.
Wow, that cut a lot deeper than I thought that was supposed to.
Isn't that what that was? What like VH1 Behind the Music was how you learned about all the
Yes,
different stuff.
that's
Like
that's what it was, but it was also a show that came out probably 30 years ago.
I know, but I caught
Does
one.
VH1 still exist?
Yeah. They're doing like that's where like the tattoo people fight and like people who are
Tattoo people fight?
they're
I
like
mean the MMA?
no.
UFC?
No. They're like tattoo artists and then
Like
they get
the Ink
mad.
Wars type
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, is that on Ink
yeah.
Wars? Or is
And-
that on VH1?
Yeah.
My wife
I don't know if
watches
it's that
streaming.
particular series, but of that ilk.
Yeah, there's another one where it's like Batty South or something, and that always pops up on my Twitter during the summer, and it makes me laugh every time. There's some great clips that come out of that. No, but like VH1, I had one that popped up the other day because everyone's talking about all these, like the Kendrick and Drake rap beef, and then I learned about the truth behind what's the band with Lindsey Buckingham?
Fleetwood Mac.
Thank you. I didn't realize that all those songs were all diss tracks about each other.
Yeah, no.
They all dated each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like you guys aren't mind blown by that. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they're all different songs about each other and how they hate each other.
Yeah, basically it was Stevie Nicks writing these songs about how much she hates Lindsey Buckingham, and then he has to go out and sing them.
Yes. And then they like sing them and like you can watch in the music video or different
Dance
live
Monkey.
concerts where they're singing at each other about how they hate each other.
Yeah.
Like Chains is all about how the two people, I don't know if it was Nicks and Buckingham per se, but like how two of them in the band felt like they were stuck together and had to stay together and couldn't break up. That blew my mind. That's the greatest like diss track of all time. You have all these diss tracks about someone that you are performing with.
Yeah.
It's got to be the most awkward thing of all time.
I don't know. I think it's just we were just more closeted about our beefs back then.
I don't know, dude. Well, I mean,
It's the
are
lack
they
it's the lack of proliferation of beef.
Well, they're not like outright like I hate you. I don't like the way that you dress. I don't like the way that you talk.
Didn't go, your shoes are whack, your clothes are whack. I love
Yeah.
that video. That guy standing outside the window, just
Me, I'm awesome.
it's just a great all time. Seriously, that guy's on a lot of drugs. Yeah, no, I think I liked it better when we didn't know.
Well, because you didn't have all the Twitter and nobody was online back then, and so yeah, you didn't have every single angle of everything being broken down.
I kind of like it though. Like I like knowing things. Like I like knowing that they hate each other.
This was see, that's the thing is, you have no frame of reference for time without internet, and not having that
Yeah.
instant access of communication. It
Yeah.
was a lot more
That's fair.
fun when your imagination can run wild with literally anything, which is why our conspiracy theories were just so much better than the ones we have today.
But they're always out today. Like,
Conspiracy theories today just aren't nearly as good. It's more
but
just
they're
idiots.
cooler.
No, it's idiots flocking to each other. There's no creativity.
No, I don't know. There's some pretty funny ones.
Dumb.
Yeah, but they were always dumb.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
and
like,
then like one would get proven right, so then everyone would be like, "Oh, conspiracy theories real."
see, the flat earthers though, they became more of a thing like post internet.
Flat earthers make me laugh.
It's
Well, yeah, because that's when everybody could really do their own research.
you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing is like that's what I'm saying. We have dumber conspiracies now,
Yes.
and that's what's like. I liked it better when we had our good old fashioned creative conspiracies. I liked it better when the CIA was just microdosing people.
Is that confirmed?
Oh, God, yes. MK Ultra? Are you serious?
And
Dude, I'm
assassinated
not-
Kennedy.
See, there's
That's
a
not even a conspiracy. Like,
See,
they were
there's-
legitimately microdosing.
See,
people.
there's a lot of those things that like come out and like I don't do enough drugs to be into that. Like I just see the conspiracy theory, I'm like, whatever. It's the same thing with like the UFOs. Like I know that we've like said that we found aliens or something, and I just look at them and like, who cares?
Haven't they actually come out and like said that UFOs, not necessarily aliens, but like confirmed UFOs?
Yeah, no, they
Yeah.
have. But at the same
And the
time,
funny
like,
thing is, we're just like, meh.
yeah, no, that's exactly my thought on like all conspiracy theories.
And that used to be the conspiracy.
Yeah, like that there were
UFOs was
aliens.
the conspiracy. I mean, look, the X-Files hit so hard not just because David Duchovny was and had that stupid look on his face all the time. What's her name? The redhead.
Don't look at me.
Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, was not.
It's like I'm not gonna know
Look-
this '90s show.
Look, the insane thing is that woman's run on magazine covers in grocery stores. There it is.
That's
was-
all I know about the
Was
X-Files. by the way.
unmatched. So like
This song.
if you wanted to know who was popular pre-internet, Jeff, it was the grocery store magazine rack.
Yes. People
Like-
magazine.
Every single tabloid rag magazine,
Yeah.
they were. That's
National
how you could
Enquirer.
tell. And she was on the cover of all of them.
Why?
For like because X-Files was dominating.
Yeah.
It was
Ev-
that big?
Oh, dear God.
X-Files was big.
X-Files probably the first 4 seasons.
Just because
Was-
aliens?
Yes.
The truth is out
They,
there.
they sexed up aliens. That's really what they did. And what was it? Scully and Mulder.
Yep.
Yeah. They stupid names that kind of go along with it.
Fox Mulder and Dana Scully.
Yeah. That
Which one's the guy? Which one's the girl?
He
That's-
was
see?
Fox was the dude.
yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Vancouver text line, birds aren't real. Isn't
Yeah.
working in the 70s.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. Birds are fake.
Could you say that
robots?
perhaps it wouldn't fly in the 70s?
Hey-oh!
Bam.
See? You know why? Because just far too many, like, I think maybe that's part of the problem is the drugs now are better.
Weed is a lot stronger, man.
Weed's a lot stronger. The chemical stuff's a lot more refined where there's a lot less metals in that stuff, unless, you're putting the metals in it. Or, in some cases, bone.
Bone.
Yeah, we did a worst day on the web a couple weeks ago in West Africa. They're they're grave robbing, stealing people's bones, grinding them into a powder, then putting them into a chemical solution and shooting it up or smoking it.
Oh, I did hear about that. That's gross.
Yeah, I know.
Don't do drugs.
I mean, yes, but also if you're gonna smoke somebody's ashes, like it has to go like full on either number one a family member because you're weird like that, or two because you're like it's like post war victory. Like I'm gonna smoke the bones of my
Oh yeah,
the ashes of my
the Tuca pet. Yeah.
yeah, like that's even then, look, I'm not saying it's acceptable then. At least for those two reasons, I can go, that's insane, but all right.
Yeah, no, I look as probably one of the last people to have gone through the DARE program in middle school, I'm gonna just listen to Nancy Reagan and
What
say
a
no to
wild
drugs.
trip on that's such an insane thing that you brought up. My wife and I were driving around the other day, and I can't remember what. A kid had a thrift Dare T-shirt on.
Oh yeah, no,
and I was like,
they're out all over the
"Excuse me,
place.
you're appropriating my culture. That's not okay. You were not alive when that program was at its peak, and
I am
Officer
offended.
Dan was driving that kick-ass Corvette.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear it.
see, and like I don't even get the Officer Dan reference, but I
That's
remember
Beaverton thing.
in 6th grade you had to take the DARE program. It was like, and you know what you were
Sixth
taught?
grade.
Yeah,
That's cute.
you know what you were
we
taught?
like second grade through high school.
Oh really?
Yeah,
They're like
are you
worried that
kidding me?
second graders are gonna do coke.
Oh,
Like,
buddy,
what?
Dude, are you kidding me? I was growing up during the freaking crack epidemic, and then on top of that, like the first like real proliferation of marijuana through society.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
post 70s into the 80s and 90s. Like
Kept getting told how people were just gonna be,
handing out
everywhere
marijuana.
just giving us drugs.
they're just gonna like be forcing you because that was part of our curriculum as well. Except it was pretty much just weed. Oh, and meth. Meth came. It was like weed.
See, we didn't
and
have
meth.
we didn't have meth yet.
And now
was-
somehow that still proliferates around Halloween. People
Yeah.
still think, oh yes,
That's right. That and the
Giving
razor
away
blades.
drugs.
all the drug dealers want to give away their product.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but it's funny you bring up Dare or beyond that because I saw that T-shirt and my wife was like, "Did you ever watch the Dare video with the rabbit?" And I had no frame of reference, and she showed me the most unhinged Dare video with the most over-the-top racial stereotypes you've ever seen in your life.
But
so
as animals.
no.
Oh,
So there's like this
Wow.
bunny comes out of somewhere else, but there's 4 kids. It's a white kid, an Asian kid, a black kid, and a white girl.
okay.
Right? So
All the races.
they hit the colors of the rainbow is kind of what they did it. And the Asian kid has a grandfather he lives with who goes Ching Chong Wong kind of stuff. Like it's so over the top racist. It like has like the horrible accent.
Really?
Oh, and it's like I'm just sitting there watching and going, "Oh, we didn't really catch that when we were younger, did we?"
Well, it's-
Well, number one, I hadn't seen it. It was
Right.
she's a couple years younger than me.
Yeah. I don't
And I was just like, that is wow. And then the black character fit a lot of stereotypes,
Yeah.
and it just kind of kept going and kept going and kept going. And the way that this was done all the way through was so over the top and so insane. And I'm sure somebody in Washington, D.C. was like, we just solved the drug crisis.
We nailed this.
We nailed this. It was absolutely horrendous. They made cigarettes look like the kind of thing that would send you to death row. Like he takes, he goes to hand him a pack of cigarettes. He goes to pull one. He's like, no! And then he goes, you want to see why? And he goes, see this guy? And it was like the Marlboro Man. And then there was like instead of a camel, they had an alligator smoking a cigarette. And then they had a hot woman smoking. He's like, see how cool they all look? And I'm like, you're not doing a good job. And then they kind of cut away to like, they like, then they zoom in and they all have like wrinkled skin and everything. But it was just so insanely done. This was like mass proliferated to children. And I just could not stop watching it of how bad and insane of a train wreck it was.
I said no.
Your parents didn't. Coming up next,
Well, there's a finite. Never mind.
we'll dive into the NBA action from last night. The Boston Celtics, they absolutely hammer the Indiana Pacers. We'll take a look at that game and what it means going forward. Coming up next here on Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan. Boston Celtics hold serve at home, closing out the Indiana Pacers in the first two games, 2-0, winning 126-110 last night. Yesterday we talked about the difference between having that guy and not having that guy, and the Boston Celtics had that guy last night. Jaylen Brown to the tune of 40 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 14 of 27. He was that dude. Jason Tatum was nowhere to be found in the first half. Jaylen Brown was there for all 4 quarters, and it showed out on both ends of the floor. The Pacers, we'll talk about a little bit later. Caitlin Cooper of Basketball, she wrote, one of the best people in all of basketball as far as coverage goes. She will join us at 2 o'clock to take a look at this from the Pacers' perspective. So we'll mostly stick on the Celtics here. If the Celtics don't have Jaylen Brown, man, they're screwed. Like, that's just as much as they were comfortably won last night after Halliburton got left the game with the injury. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum wants to be talked about because he's more talented than Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is more important to that team than Jason Tatum.
Well, it felt a little bit like I don't want to call it a revenge game for Jaylen Brown, but he feels like he should have been an All-NBA player, right? And the All-NBA teams come out and he doesn't make any of the 3 teams. He has to hear, and right now a lot of the discourse in basketball seems to be around this series, why isn't Tatum playing better? And it almost felt like Jaylen Brown was like, hey, I should be talked about on par with Tatum. Now, I don't know, like from a pure athletic standpoint, it does feel like Jason Tatum is the better player. Like when you look at his
he can do more.
stats.
No, he can do more. He is more talented and more gifted. But you take a look at when
the
it matters,
mentals,
and that's
the
the thing.
mentals.
Jaylen Brown last night has 24 points in the first half on 8 of 16 shooting. Jason Tatum, 2 of 8, 4 points, and a -9 plus-minus. And again, that's not a huge indicator, but it kind of gives you a swing. He is a -9. Jaylen Brown is a +11. That is a 20-point swing. It was a 6-point game still at halftime.
Well, he's the straw that stirs the drink, at least last night. Like, Jaylen Brown went out there. He played great on defense. But the other thing that I really liked about the way that he played, and it's not going to get talked about as much, but he wasn't afraid to pass up a good shot for a better shot, or for almost like the hockey assist where you pass the ball, he'd like kick the ball out to Pritchard, and then Pritchard would pass it one more time to White, who would hit a 3.
That's Boston in a
Or
nutshell.
hit
They
it-
give up good shots for great shots.
Right. And I did appreciate that, because you see a lot of times too when stars, which Jaylen Brown, if he's not a star, he's star adjacent. Hey, I'm hot. I'm on fire. I'm just going to chuck up shots. And I never felt like he did that. Like, he's pretty efficient from the field, 14 for 27. That's a pretty good clip. He shot 40% from the 3, right? And he got to the foul line, and he had some big steals. So it just felt like he wanted to go out and prove something to everybody. Like, you see this happen. I know, older generations talk about this with MJ and Karl Malone, and you've talked about it before with LeBron and Derrick Rose, where MJ felt like he should have been the MVP. LeBron felt like he should have been the MVP.
Sure.
But because these awards aren't full season awards, they're regular season awards, you have this weird moment where Derrick Rose gets the MVP and he gets it in front of LeBron when LeBron was the better player that year, or Karl Malone gets the MVP in front of MJ. And it kind of felt like Jaylen Brown felt that he should have been a All-NBA player at minimum 3rd team, maybe even 2nd team. He doesn't get that award. You go and look at the other teams and you start naming players off from it, and it's like, well, Jaylen Brown had just as good of a year as some of those guys.
Well, here,
and
let's
so
take a
he
look at it real
wanted to
quick.
take advantage of it.
If you take a look at the All-NBA teams, your second team, I'll go the first team. First team is Giannis, Luka, SGA, Jokic, Tatum. I don't think anybody's going to really argue with that.
Nope.
If you want to swap Brunson and Tatum, fine. I don't care. Second team is Brunson, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard. Third team, Booker, Curry, Halliburton, LeBron James, and Domantas Sabonis.
I feel like you can't tell me that he shouldn't be at least in the conversation for that 3rd team.
And
Minimum.
The thing here is that you are going to take one of Booker, Curry, LeBron, Halliburton off this list. I don't think you can take Halliburton.
Well, and like some of it with Halliburton's weird because he was so great, and then he has the hamstring
And then
injury,
he falls off.
and the
But-
only reason he came back was to make the team.
Yes, but also, where is this Pacers team without him?
Right.
Were they in a fundamentally better position than both Steph Curry's Warriors and LeBron James's Lakers?
100%.
And again, the team doesn't always play a factor in this, but the fact that the Celtics won 64 games and had one
the best team in the NBA,
all-NBA player is a little bit weird.
Right. Well, and we're not even getting into the talk of Sabonis. Like, he put his team in a better position than Sabonis, than Steph Curry, than LeBron, than even Devin Booker, right? So, like, you go down that list, like, I'll give you Halliburton, right? Halliburton probably should have been on that. He was the MVP of the Pacers. The Pacers are not where they're at without Tyrese Halliburton. But Jaylen Brown probably should have been an all-NBA player. And
Yes.
it felt like he wanted to go out there and show everyone that he should have been and that he was. That's kind of what it felt like.
And this isn't the first time that he's been that guy. In fact,
Mhm.
he's done this consistently over and over and over, regardless of, wanting to name and shame for making an all-NBA team. We talked about this going into last night. He is the guy that I trust more. Even if he screws it up, I trust that he'll be the one to make the decision.
He's not as scared of it. The other beauty of this team is, and that's what yesterday we had talked about the design of the team. It feels like when Tatum is having a rough shooting night or a rough shooting half, Jaylen Brown is not, right? And so it does feel a little bit of like, that's why this team is constructed the way it is. And then the beauty of the role players that they have, Jrue Holiday had a huge game. I mean, 15 and 10, double-double. And then Derek White, he had another 23 points. He was 4 for 8 from the three-point line.
Which bailed out Tatum in the first half.
It-
He got
it
going in the
totally
second
did.
half, but again,
Mhm.
all those times that we look at Tatum and we're like, come on, dude. Anybody? Bueller? And if it's not
Mhm.
Jaylen Brown, it's somebody else continuously. And then at the end, Jason Tatum gets to kind of go, yeah, no, I'm fine. And it's a very interesting spot to be.
Yeah,
So,
but if Jaylen Brown, and we've now seen this team for 7 years, right? Or some variation of this team. If you told me that Jaylen Brown struggles in game 3 and Jason Tatum goes out and has a great game, it wouldn't shock me. I just kind of feel like that's just how this team works. Like, they don't have a Batman. They have, I don't know, 2 Flashes. Like
that's an interesting one. Sure.
they don't have the Batman Robin feel. They have 2 like second tier superheroes. Like when we had this argument yesterday about Tatum, it was like when it comes to finishing, Tatum doesn't like to do it. Well, I'm kind of okay with that if you just look at Tatum and you say, well, then he's never going to be the best player in the NBA. And if you're okay with him never being the best player in the NBA and you're okay with him and Brown kind of working together and being that second tier star, then I think this team can win and can win a title. Like, they're deep enough to do it. Are they going to be a dynasty type team? Are we going to talk about them like we talked about, the late 2010 Golden State Warriors, the early 2010 Miami Heat? Probably not, because you probably need that pure alpha, that guy who is the number 1 player or number 2 player in the NBA that always wants the last shot or always wants the ball in his hand at the end so that he can make the correct play for the last shot. Right? Like, they're probably not going to do that. But can they win a title, especially in a year where it gets real funky and out in the West, you're going to have 2 teams that were not the favorites to come out of the West, and in the East, they haven't really played anybody. Like, this is their toughest competition that they played, and everyone is talking about the Pacers being the worst Eastern Conference Finals team in years. Yeah, why couldn't they get it done? They just might not go on a historic run.
And with that, we'll take a look on the other side of the bracket, the Western Conference Finals, as the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves have game 2 underway. Do the Timberwolves have a Gobert problem? Maybe not the way you think it is. But first, here's the Big Kahuna with the Sports Center update.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge, online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals tonight in Minneapolis as the Timberwolves look to even the series with the Mavericks. Mike Conley questionable again with a lingering Achilles injury. Luka Doncic is probable as he continues to deal with left ankle soreness and a right knee sprain. 5:30 tip on TNT. Coverage on 910 ESPN. Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Timberwolves are 5.5-point favorites. After dropping their last 2 in the Bronx and settling for a series split with the Yankees, Mariners start a 3-game set at the Nationals. George Kirby on the bump for Seattle. Mackenzie Gore for Washington. 3:45 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners still hold a 3-game lead over the Rangers for the American League West lead. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight in the NHL. Rangers looking to even the series, hosting the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on ESPN. And round 2 of the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. A 3-way tie at the top. Sungjae M, Keegan Bradley, and Davis Riley all at 6 under par. Scotty Scheffler shot a 5 under 65 today. That brings him to 3 under overall, tied for 14th. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Do it every morning. Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland's Sports Leader. 1080 The Fan.
awful nice of you to work regulators in there.
Uh,
I do appreciate it.
I did say it was regulars, and I forgot it was Yacht Rock Friday. That's what he's making a joke about it. And I was like, I love Warren G.
yeah, I keep forgetting where that sample came from.
Yeah, it's hard, truly hard to nail that one down.
You have no idea how many times that I am in this station and I hear songs and I go, oh, I love this song. And then I look up and I'm like, oh, this is where that's from.
That's not what I thought.
Yeah, everything that gets sampled is, or pretty much all of hip hop is sampled.
I was gonna say, all of my music is taken from somewhere else.
Pretty much. You could say that the Minnesota Timberwolves need to find a different sheet of music to play from when Rudy Gobert is off the floor. This from Tom Haberstroh. Points in the paint allowed per 48 minutes in Game 1 with Rudy Gobert on the floor. Points in the paint allowed per 48 minutes, 43.4. It's pretty damn good. It's good. It's a very solid number. Rudy Gobert off the court, 129.3 per 48 minutes. And he has a little asterisk that says, asterisk links to I bleep you not. Because that's an insane number, and it goes to show you the impact of Rudy bleeping Gobert. This is why you have people who work in analytics telling all of the people out there, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
If you think Rudy Gobert does not have insane defensive value. And this was the thing when we brought Kirk Henderson on the other day. We talked about how this series was going to go, and it was a combination of Luka versus Ant and how each team handled them in the battle of the interior, because the interior scoring is very, and interior defense is very different from how both teams just played. Minnesota Timberwolves played Jokic, who is a guy who does score in the paint. You know what the Nuggets don't do? They don't have rim pressure. They don't get downhill. So you can build a back line to support against Jokic, because Michael Porter Jr. is standing out the three-point line. Jamal Murray's a pull-up shooter.
Right.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a spot-up shooter. Aaron Gordon will work the dunker spot, but he's not going to put rim pressure with the ball in his hands. What do Luka and Kyrie do every bleeping possession?
They want to attack.
Attack, which collapses your defense, and you either get the kickouts, which Minnesota did not allow. They single covered and they stayed home, and instead Kyrie and Luka got in there and absolutely murdered the paint.
Right. Well, and you saw a lot of drop coverage when they would do like a pick and roll, and it was on Gobert's guy where he would drop back. Do you think that they make a change there? Like, what is the change?
I think it's going to be a big change if they make the change. I think, if anything, they're going to go away from staying with a single coverage and try to throw various and different looks. Chris Paul was on the pregame or the postgame, mid-halftime, I don't know, whatever it was last night. I try to tune out anybody on that death talks other than maybe Chris Paul. And I listen, I know everybody feels about Chris, but he's a basketball savant. And so when he talks, I want to listen. But he said something it's very similar to what Dame has told me over the years, kind of talking about how teams handle guys who have the ball a lot, who have that heliocentric gravity, right? And that's, you can't consistently throw the same thing at guys like that. Chris Paul, Dame, Luka, Kyrie, those guys are basketball savants. They've seen it all. There's nothing you can throw at them. So what you do is, it's not what you throw at them, it's when and how. So if you've been single covering him for the last 8 possessions, blitz him at 40 feet.
Right.
And
I felt like that worked.
Just to throw something in. It doesn't have to be every play. Just do it once. Now, instead of, maybe now he hustles down court and he rushes something and gets into a possession a little bit quicker because he thinks, well, maybe that split second of, is that blitz coming? No? Okay. On to the next, because it's a problem solving. It's a Rubik's Cube. You're just constantly moving, constantly solving. Go, 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 go. Now, Luka and Jokic both have that supercomputer processing. The difference is, and even though Jokic is supremely the best player on the planet,
yeah, he is.
Luka presents it in a different manner because he's constantly moving. And it's not moving fast.
No, it's very slow, but he always gets to where he wants to. So, because that's where, like, when I watched Game 1, I felt like when they blitzed, right? When they sent the double and they sent it quick and they got the ball out of Kyrie's hands or they got the ball out of Luka's hands, And, now Derek Jones is trying to figure something out, or Daniel Gafford or Lively's trying to figure something out. That's where I felt like they had the most success because you got the ball out of the primary ball handler's hand and they were able to get more stops that way. The problem was some of the times when they did that blitz and Rudy Gobert wasn't out there, that's where those big free dunks came in. Like I felt like Gafford and Lively, they might have set a record in a playoff game for most amount of dunks with no one within 5 feet of them ever, right? So how do they leave Rudy on the court and then send the blitz? Is that like the best situation there? Is it something where like maybe in the first half you blitz more and then you don't in the second half? Maybe even like with the last game where Luka was struggling early in the first half, maybe you don't blitz Luka and you blitz Kyrie because Kyrie was the one who seemed to be going after it more.
It's an interesting theory too, because of if you're talking about guys as off-ball shooters, Kyrie is significantly better in that department. Where maybe you want to get Kyrie to give up the ball to Luka as a spacer,
right?
And make him be the guy that attacks the second side, which I think you're playing with fire there, because now you might have Luka Doncic playing downhill 4-on-3, which can be
terrifying,
absolutely mortifying. But if it's Luka kicking out to Kyrie, that becomes a little bit harder to deal with because he's a world-class shooter. So it's the old adage of, do you want to trade 2 for 3? And do you want to trade what 2s for what 3s do you want to trade? And we talked about this the other day. In the NBA today, and I really want to emphasize this. This goes from the best team in the world down to the Trailblazers and the Pistons who are rebuilding. You cannot take away everything in the NBA. That has never been a thing, and it is especially true now with the proliferation of shooting and ball handling in the NBA.
Right.
Like that's just,
they're going to get theirs. It's just, can you make it difficult?
And what can you take away, or what can you make more difficult? And the big thing is to take away, for a lot of teams, rim attempts and corner 3 attempts. There is a ton of math, a ton of research, a ton of science data on the inability to affect 3-point percentage, like contesting closeouts.
Right.
Do you want to do it as opposed to letting a guy have a wide open look? Sure. But it's a little murkier. The best way to combat 3-pointers is to limit attempts and the clean looking corner 3. It is the shortest and most high value 3-pointer on the floor. So if you can limit those opportunities and make more above the break 3s that are at least lightly contested, that's the world that you want to live in mathematically. The same reason you want to not only alter and bother shots at the rim, you want to have the Victor Wembanyama effect. You want to limit shots at the rim.
Right. And you get that with Rudy.
Yes. And here's where it gets important or interesting as it pertains to the Timberwolves and the Mavericks. Kyrie and Luka can live in the paint and do what they did. I was like, well, they won't continue to do that. Yeah, they can. Yes, they will. How you take that away and how much you're willing to step up and take those away and maybe open up an opening behind you for Derek Lively, for Daniel Gafford, for PJ Washington, that's going to be probably the decider not only in this game, but in this series. If Dallas goes in and wins this game tonight, you can probably pack Minnesota up and then kind of go with the projection that Kirk threw out there that one team's going to 4-1 the other.
Yeah.
But if Minnesota punches back tonight and is able to limit, I'm not worried about them offensively as much as I am defensively being able to stop that two-headed monster.
I was going to say, because my bold prediction for the night is watch Ant Edwards points. He did not have a great game 7. He didn't have a great game 1.
No. He's 22 years old, and the lights are probably a little too bright for him right now. And that's okay.
He's probably a little.
Okay.
He's probably a little tired.
Yeah, because it's his first time going this deep.
Nice. I think he goes off tonight. I think he knows they have to have.
Certainly has the capacity to.
I think he knows that they have to have this one, and he goes off. That's my bold prediction for the game. So for me, if Minnesota wants to win this, they have to find a way to at least make Luka and Kyrie more inefficient. Or maybe you give those 3s to PJ Washington. You give them to Lively. You give them to Jones. You let Gafford take a 15-foot jumper. You let those guys do those things to make sure that it's not Luka and Kyrie. And if the role players beat you, the role players beat you. There's not much you can do about it.
It's going to be interesting to see what kind of comes out of that tonight. We will revisit the NBA playoffs a little bit later. Again, Caitlin Cooper covers the Indiana Pacers, will join us to talk about the Pacers side of things following their Game 2 loss against the Celtics last night. But coming up next, EA Sports, NCAA football. Look, I'm going to peddle the product. Why? Because it's directly in my veins, and I love it. And we have a little bit of news about how the money is going to be distributed to the schools. We'll get to that here coming up next year on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. NCAA Football 25 is slated to come out in just a couple of weeks.
July 18th, I believe.
Dun, 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 dun.
Whatever that Friday is.
Yeah,
18th or 19th.
It was supposed to be a little bit earlier, got pushed back a little bit. So we'll monitor that closely. But Collect.com has the exclusive details on the payouts for 134 FBS schools that are going to appear in EA College Football 25. It is broken out into 4 tiers. Tier 1 makes essentially $100,000, Tier 2 $60,000, Tier 3 $40,000, Tier 4 $10,000. It is broken out by a team's finish in the AP Top 25 from 2014 to 2023. And you get a point scale based off that. Your Tier 1 scaling is from 6 to 10 points, Tier 2, 2 to 5, Tier 3 is 1 point, Tier 4 is 0. How did they break this up exactly? Tier 1 has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 schools. 13 schools.
And it's the usual suspects. It's the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Oregons.
Your total list is Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Clemson, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Oklahoma, Utah, Iowa, Georgia, and LSU.
I guess punts do work.
Turns out it's
Punting can get you tier 1.
Somebody made the joke Iowa gets $1,000 for every punt.
Somewhere Kirk Ferentz is like, see,
it does pay out.
I told you.
Because of the AP top 10, or should be top 25 finishes, that means for tier 2, you have got college football blue bloods, USC, Florida State, Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, all in tier 2.
Is Tennessee a blue blood?
Yes.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They haven't been.
Real quick, is Penn State?
Penn State?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been good recently.
Do they have 100,000 people showing up for every one of their games?
Well, but by
They're a
by
blue
that
blood.
logic, then every SEC team should be in there.
No, they don't all have 100,000 people showing up.
Tennessee
I'm
has not been relevant until the last 4 years, 5 years. Like my life, Tennessee hasn't been
In
good.
your life.
That's right. Your life is different.
Exactly, which is why they're a blue blood. You may not like it, but they are there because they were very good for a very long time.
Well, then by that logic, shouldn't Miami be a blue blood?
No, because they only had one period.
They had 2 periods. The U part 1, part 2.
Yeah, fair.
There were 2 different generations. There was the bad boy Miami teams, and then there was the Butch Davis teams.
They were all bad boys. But the interesting thing here, locally, because Washington State and Oregon State both have been top 25 finishers, they slide into tier 3 and they get a couple bucks. Huh?
Yeah, good for them.
They are in there with the likes of Syracuse, Kansas, the Marshall Thundering Herd, South Carolina, Army.
Mm.
Oh, you know what's interesting? Army and Air Force both on here. Don't see any Navy.
Yeah, I don't.
Don't see the Navy.
Now I'm looking for Navy. I don't see them either. You would think actually they would be in
That's
tier.
yeah.
I would think they'd be tier 2, maybe. They've been pretty good, haven't they?
no.
No.
Yeah. It's a weird spot to be. But yeah, you've got. Listen, the bottom schools aren't making a whole lot. $10,000 is not.
It's
a
not
ton.
doing much. It's the
But-
usual suspects
Yeah.
again, though.
But it is nice to see Oregon State and Washington State both sneaking into tier 3 and getting a couple extra bucks.
Especially Oregon State, because the only reason they're in tier 3 is because of the last couple of years. Where like you start going down the last 10 years of WSU football has been really good. Like as far as WSU football goes, right? The Cougs aren't winning a national championship. That's not happening.
You know,
but
on NCAA football 25 they might.
Well, that's true. I
Depends
forgot
on-
about that.
Hey, it depends on which. I don't know about you, but when I do my dynasty, I basically I go random.
Oh, see, I start as an offensive coordinator at a small group of 5 school.
Look,
and
man,
go
I took Rice to a national powerhouse in NCAA 14. All right,
Hey, look, there you go. But
took a long time.
all I'm saying though is like this WSU team, the last 10 years they've been really good. 'Cause
Yeah.
you've got the Leach eras. You even had the Rolo year or two, and then I mean Dickert. Like obviously this year wasn't exactly what you wanted, but he's had some pretty strong teams as well. So it's at least there's a little bit of money coming in, and it's also kind of cool to see how the paying system works. Like I just assumed they all got a flat fee, but it would make more sense that the big blue bloods are like, no, we deserve more money if you want to use this in this game. Because if you had this NCAA football game, but Alabama had balked at it and said, no, it's not the same game, and it would tear a lot of people down. I'll tell you what, though, my Twitter feed is turning into NCAA football only, and
I'm all about it.
I'm here for it. Have you seen, like, they have the loading screen that's out now. Now, I saw a thing today about the different visors you could have on and the mouthpieces and all the,
Look, every skill position player on every team that I ever run in that game will have blacked out visors and cowboy collars. I'll have wide receivers with cowboy collars.
that's the most ridiculous thing ever.
So great. I love
No, you can't. That's a spat guy. Linebackers are neck roll
No,
guys.
everyone
There's neck roll
just
guys.
neck rolling up everyone.
As an offensive lineman, you got to pick up the neck roll guys. The spat guys, sometimes you let those guys go. They're probably not going to make the tackle.
Just I'm saying, man, just throwing neck rolls on everybody. But hey, that's the breakout of who's getting paid and why they're getting paid, which leads us into a nice little transition here. The NCAA settlement is becoming clearer and clearer, and the college basketball schools are probably going to be pretty pissed. We'll get into that and more coming up here in hour number 2 on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Hour 2 here on a Friday on a wonderful day in Portland. It's not. It's terrible outside.
Is it?
It's not great.
Has it started raining? I mean, overcast is fine. It's not a great
No,
day, but
it's gross.
But we're staring right down the barrel of a 3-day weekend.
I'll
So
say,
that
yeah.
helps.
How's the weather looking this weekend? Are we looking at good Memorial Day weekend
I
weather?
think it drizzles a little bit Saturday, but then it gets nice on Sunday and Monday.
I think something like that. Yeah.
Already booked my tea time for
so
Sunday.
yeah, it sucks and blows from today through Monday. Awesome.
No, I already booked my tea
So
time for
dumb.
Sunday. You can't.
You know what?
tell
I'm
me.
going to go on a quick little rant here because I live in Newburgh, just down the street from Rogers Landing, one of the only easily accessible boat docks up and down the Willamette outside of
Good for
Portland.
Roger.
Hilariously, my dad's name. But they shut it down for Memorial Day weekend. Look, I live near there, so I guess I'm okay with there being less traffic. But it's like it takes anybody who wants to take a boat out on Memorial Day and shoves them all either into 10th Street down into Oregon City or Wilsonville. It's like, you know what? Why are we doing this?
Well, you just said it's supposed to rain, so like
I'm
people
saying
are gonna
about in
stay
general.
inside.
I'm saying in general. It's like why do we have to do this? It's all very dumb.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean,
It's the same thing when I was on a rant the other day about the Italian people of Milan getting mad that tourists were in their cities up too late. You live in a tourism place. Like I live near a river. I accept the fact that people are going to bring their boats up and down my street. That's how this
Yeah.
works.
yeah, but I don't know. Like, it's the official start of the summer on the Will Ortner calendar, but for other people, it's like, hey, let's get it done now. So then during the summer, it's not a problem. So
That
I
doesn't
don't
make any
know.
sense though. They're not going to
No, they should have done it in the winter, but maybe there's a reason, like maybe you can't do it because of the rain or something. I don't know.
No, they don't. They've done this the last couple of years. It's very dumb. But there you go.
Oh.
What you can do, though, coming up here in a couple of weeks, is you can go check out a NASCAR event down at PIR. If you want to win tickets, here's how. Listen right now. If you text in 503-864-6326 RACING, RACING, you can enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the NASCAR event June 1st at Portland International Raceway. Again, that's 503-864-6326 RACING, RACING. Shout out to all you people out there who continue to misspell it on the text line. You can't win if you can't spell it right. For all their contest details and rules, you can go to 1080thefan.com. Shoot away those text messages right now for tickets to enter for or to win a chance to win tickets to the event June 1st at Portland International Raceway. There we go.
I'm so excited to have races
If I
back.
can, that's fun. If I can get my tongue to stop sticking to the roof of my mouth, that would be great.
Well, stop eating peanut butter.
Right? I feel like just over here, there's a dog.
Get the powder, dude. The powder's it's been a game changer.
Sounds so terrible.
No, dude, it's so good.
It sounds awful.
It's such a game changer in the Will Ortner household. Just take a little bit of powder, a little bit of water, mix it up, chef it, just like this. Sometimes, if you want to add chocolate to it, you throw a little chocolate syrup in there,
No.
drizzle it on a pancake.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to powder up my chocolate syrup. That's good.
No,
No,
You
we're stopping.
make
No,
it
no,
into
no.
peanut butter,
No.
and then you
No, you don't
put a
make
little bit of
powder
chocolate
into
on it.
anything. That's terrible.
no, you make chocolate or you make peanut butter.
You
powder.
sound like the NCAA trying to justify its existence, and that's no longer going to be a thing either
Justifying
because
greatness.
the votes are in, ladies and gentlemen. It is official. A more than $2.7 billion deal has been agreed to. The Power 5 conferences of the NCAA and the NCAA Board of Governors have voted to accept the settlement of 3 antitrust cases, which is going to create an entirely new structure across college sports, including pay for play. It's
Yeah.
here. It's real. Student athletes, screw it. Athletes will now be paid. They will be employees. How this all ends up getting worked out is going to be a complete S show because the NCAA took so long and dragged this out for forever, trying to hoard as much money for themselves as they could until it became very clear that they were going to get nailed to the wall by lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Let's start at the top. The reason they settled this lawsuit is not out of the goodness of their hearts. It's because they know what's coming.
The $2.7 billion actually saved them money. The other crazy thing about this, though, and like you said, the lawsuits, you know that they're coming.
This
Doesn't protect them from
No.
that. You would think normally if you settle something, it would. It does not protect
No,
them.
this is a hope that it will protect them enough from other litigious cases that are brought forward as it pertains to amateurism and paying players in college. They are getting the living crap kicked out of them in the courts.
They haven't won a case that I can remember. I mean, since Ed O'Bannon went after him, they have just taken L after L after L.
And they know what's coming. So they settled this case, $2.7 billion that would be paid out. 40% of it will be paid out by the top 5 conferences in the country. However, because of how this was handled and how this has been rewarded, the basketball, the NCAA tournament, the money generated from that is going to end up probably being the saving grace for the NCAA because they were not ruled out of handling that money. It's mostly the college football playoff.
Well, yeah, that's where they make their money in general. Like, wasn't it the COVID year where, like, if they had to cancel the NCAA tournament again, the NCAA would cease to exist?
Because it makes $1 bajillion dollars.
That's literally where they make all their money. It's probably why they're like, let's expand again.
Yes.
Because they know they need money, and they need money coming in fast.
So let's kind of go to the 3 problems that most people see with this. ESPN, Pete Thamel has an article out on it. CBS Sports has an article out on it. They're all kind of talking about the same general thoughts and processes. Number 1, how does Title IX factor into this with all of the other sports? What is and how will rosters be affected with roster caps being put on, particularly in football, because that's your big roster sport. There are thoughts that the rosters right now that are between 130 to 140 players, depending on active, non-active, scholarship, and walk-on, it might get cut down to 85.
Or they would just go to 100, but everyone would be on a scholarship. Because that's the big thing now. It's the rosters might be capped, but the scholarships will no longer. Because right now, when you play NCAA football for Division I, and it's different at each division.
Yes.
So at Division I, you get 85 scholarships for football, but for baseball, you get 11.7. Softball, you get 12, right? So to be in Title IX compliance, the best way for me to explain it is because of I understand how it worked at Central, because as part of my sport management degree, you had to take a budgeting and a Title IX class to get that degree, which I took. So at Central, we were able to give out, I think D2 is 26 scholarships for football. We gave out 25, and they were cut up. So most people on our football team had some sort of scholarship. Like when I came in, it was half, and eventually got bumped up to a full. But so you take those scholarships and you divvy them out. Well, to be in Title IX compliance, you then have to have 25 scholarships for women's sports teams. So that's why in the fall, you had a women's soccer team and you had a women's volleyball team, and they split up whatever the number, I think it was like 10 and 15 or 12 and 13 or whatever the number is to make it work. They had the same amount of scholarships that they could allocate to their players, so that way they stayed in Title IX compliance. Well, if you then have a team of 100 football players and you are going to give 100 scholarships out, that means then for your other fall sports teams that are women's based, you have to find 100 scholarships to make sure that they have, so then you don't get sued for not being Title IX compliant at the school.
Where and how those implications come in and the relevancy of Title IX.
Can you even afford to do it?
And that's the thing here is that I don't, this is going to be taken some sort of way, but I'll be blunt with it. The lesser sports, men's and women's, unless you are a Oregon State where you are focusing on baseball, are going to take a hit. That's the reality of it. And the generators of revenue, men's or women's, will and should be prioritized going forward, because we are no longer in a Title IX era. We are in a corporate era.
I don't know if they're going to be able to do that while still being a part of the school system.
But that's my point, is that it may need to divorce itself. And I'm not saying that as a way to push women's sports aside. I'm saying that if you look at UConn women, Iowa women, South Carolina women, Tennessee women, all those women's basketball teams, legitimate revenue generators for their programs. They should be prioritized unequivocally, unabashedly. they should be prioritized. You cannot
Right.
enforce what's a big football school with a horrid basketball team?
You could
on
look
the
at
no,
Ohio State. Ohio State's a good one.
It's a good one because the difference is huge.
Yeah, like let's take out the Greg Oden years.
I mean, they're still relatively good, but let's just use them as an example.
Right.
You cannot say that because Ohio State now has 100 scholarships on football, that they should have 100 scholarships available across women's sports or across however that
I
is
think you
going
had
be
to
broken
do
out.
it per sports season. So if it was fall, you had to have it for fall.
But that's my point.
Right.
Is if it gets to that point, because we are quite literally talking about nothing but revenue generators at this
Right.
point. We are no longer in amateurism status. It's gone. It's corporate.
Right.
It's fully
Right.
pay for play. And on the same token, on the women's side, if at Tennessee or at UConn's a perfect one.
UConn. Yeah.
Their men's and women's basketball teams are incredible. Their football team is terrible. It was
Horrific.
ceased to exist. I don't care if they have 0 scholarships there,
Right.
because whatever the women and men generate, they have generated.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is about now. Who can generate and who can drive? But UConn's also a great explanation or a great touching off point for the basketball side of this. They're going to be stuck paying the fees and the fines that are associated with this deal, and they don't have the revenue that is generated by college football.
There's a lot of schools because
The
remember,
basketball schools are taking this on. The Gonzagas, the UConns, they are Kansas States, Kansas. They are taking this on the chin.
well, because remember, from my understanding of this, it's an equal pay from every school. Alabama is paying the same as your UAB, your Alabama Birmingham. And if they're all doing this, this is where you get this is where stuff gets into problems, because in an ideal world, you could take away the Title IX and everything would still be even, but that's not the world that we work in. It's also not, to my understanding, of if you are a public university, like Title IX is a law. Like this is something that is you'd have to go and change laws, which I don't know that you'd be able to do. I don't know that they would do, right?
Because, well, that also is pertains to student athletes. They're no longer student athletes.
Well, they still are right now.
No, when this goes through and they start getting paid, amateurism is gone. And that's my point, is that
Right.
somebody is going to challenge that from both sides of it, from both a pro women's side of it and pro lesser sports side, and somebody from the top on the basketball,
Right.
football, and I guess baseball at some power schools. But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
There are some weird niche, like Nebraska volleyball. Like
Yes.
they make money. There's some niche spots
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
make money. The other big question that I have too is a lot of teams are talking like, hey, we're going to have to cut sports. Well, you have to have a certain amount of sports
Mhm.
to reach a requirement to be D1.
Yep.
So does that requirement now go out the window? Like, again,
it would be funny to watch all of the other schools that are like not football schools go, screw it, we'll drop down the next division. Good luck paying $2.7 billion. See you later. Bye.
Yeah, like have fun, because that's where my question comes in. Like, and again, I hate that I keep relating this back to Central, but I took the class at Central, so I understand for the most part the ins and outs of how it worked at that level. Like the talk at Central was, our conference blew up, right? We became the Pac-2, the GNAC 2, us in Western Oregon. So we had to join a new conference. And so now what Central has to do for football, and Western Oregon has to do this as well, is you have to pay probably about 4 to 5 times a year to fly. That's an insane thing to do at D2. Most schools, you drive because everything is close enough.
Yeah.
We had to pay 4 to 5 times a year at minimum to fly to different games because we played in a league with Texas teams and teams from New Mexico and Oklahoma and stuff like that. So the conversation was always, well, how does Central get into the Big Sky? How do we jump to an FCS program so then we have a lighter travel schedule? Well, you have to meet these requirements. You have to add these sports. You have to add this to your arena. You have to add this to your football stadium. And if we did all these things, in the long run, it actually ended up being more expensive because we would have had to have bought and built and created all these other programs, right? You got to go pay coaches. You got to go find arenas. If it's golf, you got to go find a golf course for these students. You got to go find coaches. So there are a lot of other things that could go into it too of, hey, if you try and kill a team or you try and get rid of a team, are you now not Title IX compliant? If you try and add a team so that you can find a way to be Title IX compliant, but it's a cheaper sport, are you able to find the coaches? Are you able to do that? There's just so much that's going on in the college football landscape that I know that this settlement came down and everyone's like, oh, there's going to be big changes. There is so much that still has to be ironed out. College football, college athletics, it's going to be completely different in 2 years, and it'll be completely different 2 years after that. There's just so much movement. And I feel that's why like a lot of people aren't really paying attention right now to this. They're like, just tell me when it's all done, because it's going to change, and it almost feels like it's going to change every 6 months.
Yeah.
What could this be? You know what I mean? Like, I could come up here and be
I
like,
don't think this is going to be settled for little years. Like,
Right.
And that's the thing is, Vancouver Forward text line says, zero chance they give up Title IX, zero political will to do that. You're delusional. No, I'm not delusional. I just understand how the world works, and money will overrule politics every single time. Every single article that is out there right now is talking about how do schools, how and will they justify getting rid of Olympic sports?
getting rid of Olympic sports is different than getting rid of Title IX, though.
It's not, though. They're treated one and the same.
You can get rid of Olympic sports and still say Title IX compliant.
Again, they're one and the same with how they are looked at as monetary drivers. That's my point. And the fact that where this is going, there's multiple quotes in here. The one from Pete Thamel's article was, I want to see if I can find it here again.
What they'd have to do is break away, be their own thing. That like football would have to break away, be its own thing, and then when the laws were created around it, it would have to be its own separate entity.
They won't be NCAA sports.
It would have to be its own
or
separate.
NCAA becomes kind of like intramural sports. That's kind of the way it gets treated.
It would have to be its own entity, because you're not going to get rid of Title IX.
Yes.
It would have to be its own entity.
But Title IX
it's
not going to exist in the way that it treats now. Because if football has 100 scholarships, they are not going to do.
No,
it's not going to happen.
Right, you're not putting 50 volleyball players on scholarship.
That's what I mean. Like,
it's
just not going to happen, and that's my point. Is that they're going to divorce the two. It will be like Title IX doesn't exist in the vein of how the football and basketball is treated versus everything else.
See, I think it's just going to be football, and I don't know what it. But
no, basketball is going to be right there with it. Literally generates billions of dollars. It does not generate the what is it?
But you don't have to
15 billion.
But you don't have to change the Title IX, is what I'm saying there. Like
but it's the money generating side of this. They are going to pull those two sports away. There is nobody in women's basketball that is getting $500,000 to transfer
from the NIL. You're going down the Baycott route.
But it's not even just the NIL component of this. They are going to start paying these players, and they're going to disguise it as NIL.
Well, there's going to be a salary cap. Yes,
and all of that stuff. There is no way. There's no fundamental way to make those dollars compare across sports.
Right. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to Title IX, my understanding of it, at least, and maybe this is antiquated because it's the old system, the basketball would be able to stay the same because the school would be offering the scholarships. So what I'm saying is, it would, like, the money isn't necessarily going to be the same. It would probably look more like a WNBA, NBA model. But the scholarships would be, if the men's team has 15, the women's team would have 15.
My point is, it's not. I'm not talking about just the scholarship side of this. I'm talking they're going to branch those two away, the football and basketball side of it, because they're going to generate more money than God. and
Yeah.
it just does, and they are not going to be legislated the same.
They'll be their own
Title
entity.
IX, so Title IX won't even have oversight over it because you're talking essentially the difference between professionalism and amateurism at that point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I'm going towards. I'm not saying we're getting rid of Title IX. I'm saying the way that we look at it and the way we treat it now is not going to be the same going forward because of how the entities are going to be governed and who they are going to be governed by.
Yes, we were in agreement with like the money being different.
Yes.
Where the scholarships were, that's where it gets kind of, that's just like, it's the weirdest part. And there's also going to be universities that just say, yeah, no, thank you.
All right, coming up next, Bronny James, not a two-way player. Danny and Dusty, today the fan. Chris Haynes of Bleacher Report. Good God, that was a Freudian slip.
The brother.
Formerly, of course, of NBC Sports Northwest and all-around good dude, sat down with Rich Paul, proprietor of Clutch Sports and representative of one Bronny James, also LeBron James. You know, that guy. There was a note in there where he going back and forth with Rich Paul about his process and his other clients and the faces of the NBA, and then he asks about Bronny James and whether or not a team could take Bronny James on a two-way deal. And he goes, "Can you clarify on that?" And Rich Paul says, "No, we will not." I advised teams that no, we will not allow Bronny James to go on a two-way deal. Which, good luck with that. You're going to force a team to get a roster. LeBron James has basically told Rich Paul, "I'm going to leverage him into an actual roster spot and an actual contract." because the stark majority of scouts, executives of the NBA do not see Bronny James as someone who you should use a guaranteed contract on.
I feel bad for Bronny because I don't feel like Bronny has necessarily asked for all this. Like, no one in this draft is getting more coverage than Bronny James. Like, if you went down the list of all the guys from Sard to Topic to, the couple kids from Colorado, even Castle from UConn.
There's a reason why Bronny James is on everything.
It's because
he
his
generates
dad.
clicks, and it's
Right.
It's a lightning rod thing. I would much rather talk about the efficacy of Cody Williams or the effectiveness of Tijon Saloon or whether or not Donovan Klingon's going to go second or 12th.
Well, it's none of this is Bronny's fault. Like, he's getting talked about. People hate on him. People are taking dumb bets where they're betting on him to be drafted 5th overall or whatever the number is. Like, he probably is a player that needed to spend another year in college. He had an insanely horrific incident with his heart.
The fact that he's still playing because of the heart condition is out of this world.
Right. Like, it's insane. I'm sure that when you come back, one, he's young. He was in a spot where it didn't make a whole lot of sense for him to be at USC. They already had a guard in that spot. He's not a true point guard. So the fact that he's 6'1", and not 6'4", like he's listed, also kind of damages him, because usually if you're going to be that small, you need to be a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got a great wingspan. He plays offense. He plays defense. His stats aren't great. He needed another year. He needed another year where he could go and get developed better, be more of that point guard role, or be in a system where he just gets more time. I'm also sure that with that heart incident, I'm sure it's scary to even try and get your legs back under you coming back in. He needed another year, but it feels like his dad wants to try to play with him, and now his dad's trying to do the whole, like, well, I would or maybe wouldn't. His dad wants to play with him, and it's a really cool thing, and it's a really cool story. But for the growth of Bronny long-term as a player, he needed to go back for at least one more year. He's not ready.
And even then, the nepotism stuff is real. Do I think LeBron James Jr. or Ronnie James Jr. can end up being a guy who is effective in the NBA? Sure.
Role player is kind of what they say his ceiling is.
If his last name was Anderson, it would be very different. But that's not the world we live in. So I just thought it was interesting to bring up the fact that he's not going to go look at it two-way. So all you Blazers fans out there, well, they're going to take him a second-round pick to it. No, number one, they're not going to do that. Number two, they're not going to do that. All right, coming up next, it's time for our worst day on the web. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a doozy. I do love a game show that keeps on giving. But first, here's the big kahuna, the Sports Center update.
That's that Hawaiian burger joint.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge, online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals tonight in Minneapolis as the Timberwolves look to even the series with the Mavericks. Mike Conley questionable again with a lingering Achilles injury. Luka Doncic is probable as he continues to deal with left ankle soreness and a right knee sprain. Timberwolves are 5.5-point favorites. It's a 5:30 tip on TNT. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 5 o'clock. After dropping their last two in the Bronx and settling for a series split with the Yankees, the Mariners start a three-gamer at the Nationals. George Kirby on the bump for Seattle. Mackenzie Gore for Washington. 3:45 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners still with a three-game lead over the Texas Rangers for the AL West lead. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final in the NHL. Rangers looking to even the series, hosting the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on ESPN. And round 2 of the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. And pulling away from the rest of the pack is Davis Riley. He's 5 under on his round today through 11 holes, leaving him at 9 under overall. That is 3 strokes clear of Sungjae Im and Keegan Bradley. And world number 1, Scotty Scheffler, shot a 5 under 65 today, bringing him to 3 under par. He is tied for 16th. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
NASCAR is back.
It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
Well, this is right up there with the it was South Park, right? They did the Wheel of Fortune episode.
Sure.
With the
South Park did one.
the people that annoy you,
yeah.
and it was N blank GGERS. Naggers.
Wow.
Was the answer to all you monsters out there. To all of you monsters out there who may have thought otherwise, how dare you?
I instantly thought.
In immediate real life mimicked art fashion, we have this from Wheel of Fortune.
Category is phrase, and off we go. Tavares.
Right in the butt.
No. Blake.
This is the best.
Yeah, that's it, I think, yeah.
Much better answer.
What is Colorado Rockies?
Tavares, you've already made an impression on us.
I apologize, Pat. I was a little excited.
No, we'll figure out a way to handle that tastefully. I have no idea what that'll be. Tavares Williams is from Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Florida man.
There we go. I had to leave that in.
Absolutely. What was the final answer?
It's the best. Or
It's the
something?
best.
It's the
Which,
best.
you know, for some people, just saying, we don't kink shame here on this show. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wonderful way to make an impression on a game show.
Right in the butt.
Right in the butt. Just there's a couple of different reactions there. The woman, what?
My favorite is
Pat
that he-
Sajak. No.
My favorite is that he's like very like he thinks he nailed it.
Yeah.
He's like right in the butt.
Which is hilarious because it's 4 letters. So I guess if you're a big fan of Rite Aid, R-I-T-E.
Yeah. Well, he is from Florida. Look, they're
Probably
not
loves some
known
Rite Aid.
for their spelling out there. School isn't a big thing out there.
Not many books left there.
I get paid to lead, or to lead, not to read.
Right in the butt. Why would you think that that would be on like a normal TV game show?
Why not?
Like, you know what? I've nailed this. It's right in the butt.
Right in the butt.
Like, I don't think that that's what they're gonna do. I'm seeing text in here that this was the opening puzzle.
Yes.
This is
Like-
the opener to the show.
Yeah, like the first 60 seconds
That's
of
the
the show.
insane thing is like this isn't like the final like, hey, we got to finish this puzzle.
Yeah.
Let's start just yelling out things.
That's why Pat says, Tavares, you've already made quite an impression on the show.
it's like, bruh.
It's such a like the start of the show. Like they're gonna get after it right away.
Right in the butt.
Right in the butt. How do you want to start this show? Right in the butt. No, it's
If I'm
it's
him, I'm
not that.
trademarking that.
He's got to start selling T-shirts.
Right?
T-shirts.
Just, there's got to be
Oh no,
RITB.
this
Well,
is a bad week. Like, what if Scotty Scheffler buys this
With
shirt?
the puzzle filled in just like you said, but the RITE. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in the butt.
Right? See?
Yeah.
That's how you do it. There's T-shirts to be made there.
Is that a common phrase that's used in the Tavares household? Like, this is something that's
Apparently.
coming out all the time. Like from a young boy, like this is a phrase that
It's
they
like
were using.
what was the is it Animaniacs? Down the hole, but instead of down the hole, it's right in the butt.
Well, there was an old Newlywed Game episode too with Bob Eubanks.
Those
And
are fun on
The
Twitter.
question was the strangest place that you've ever made whoopee.
Oh
And-
yeah,
And the wife,
yeah.
she says, in the butt, Bob.
Yeah, I have seen that clip. Yeah, those are great.
Wow.
Like the other ones are saying, the back seat of the car or, on the kitchen table.
Oh yeah.
And she goes with, in the butt, Bob.
Holy crap.
Gold.
Yeah, those pop up on my Twitter. Like
I've never seen that
Oh,
one.
it's a doozy.
Because I bet you in that time period, that caused because you used to.
This
everybody-
is reefer
you get-
madness.
Well, I mean, no,
time.
you get your TV trays out and you watch the shows together as a family.
Yeah.
I'm sure a knife and a fork went across the plate like, As little Timmy goes, what does she mean, Dad? Ask your mother, ask your mother, ask your mother. Good God.
You think there were some looks in different households? Like, see?
Prude.
And then, of course, like the running joke from Mallrats, too, and they talk about doing it somewhere very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And he goes, what, like the back of a Volkswagen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, God.
It's a movie. Yeah. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you should.
I'll check that
I
out.
do. You know what? I do appreciate the willingness of this man to just throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
To just really go for it.
Like, I've nailed
Look, there are
this.
times on the radio when I really want to go for it, and I'm like, is that an FCC fine? He didn't care.
Right in the butt.
Do you think he even knows that the FCC? Like, I feel like for him responding
Well, he's not
with
live,
this,
so he's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
I also feel like for him responding with this, like, in his head, and you can see it on his face, like, he's like, I nailed this.
Yeah.
This is
Got it.
correct. This is almost as bad as the guy on Family Feud who goes up and starts barking at the woman that he's going against with his wife right next to him. Have you seen that clip?
No.
I don't remember what the deal is. Like, it's like family against family.
That's usually how Family Feud works, yeah.
Yeah.
No, sometimes it's show for show. And so, anyways, the lady is standing next to this guy. I think she starts jumping up and like she's a workout instructor or something. So she starts jumping up and down or doing jumping jacks. He starts barking. He starts barking. Yes. He's like, and Steve Harvey's like, are you serious right now? He started barking.
I mean, if Steve Harvey started to question you, you've crossed some lines.
Yeah, this also feels like a Family Feud answer. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see.
Maybe back in the old Dick Dawson days.
Yeah,
when he
put it
would-
up on the
when he would- yeah,
board.
when he would basically make out with every woman on the show.
Yeah, what was that?
Oh,
That's just
that's
a
called
different time,
sexual
man.
assault, brother.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't believe you guys let that happen.
It was a different time.
Well, didn't try to kiss me.
Yeah. And he didn't care. He was an
No,
equal opportunity.
he
It was-
kissed everyone
It
from
was
what I saw.
every female
Yeah.
ever on that show.
Oh, it was just females?
Yeah.
I thought it was everybody.
Oh, no.
just-
Oh, I thought that was how he got away with it. It was just like, oh, this is what he does.
No, he's just a swinger.
He just kisses everybody.
I just wonder, like, how big of an area around him too just smelled like Dewar's Scotch at any
Scotch,
given
scotch,
point
scotch,
during
scotch,
taping.
scotch, scotch.
Time
I
to
feel
go
like
down
he's
into
like
my belly.
a living example of Anchorman. Like he was
Yeah.
Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, like he was just constantly pickled. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Game shows.
I want to go talk about some other sports stuff, but you brought up a story that is so insane, and I looked at it during the commercial. We have to talk about this. This is absolutely unhinged. You think the cop in St. Louis with Scotty Scheffler was crazy?
Detective
Don't
Gilly.
ever get arrested in Fontana, California. Coming up
Kentucky
next.
is what I've been told.
Danny and Dusty, Tinny the Fan. In a break, Jeff Russ is like, hey, there's an insane story that's out there, and you won't believe it. So during the next break, I clicked on it. I was like, let's go down this rabbit hole of weirdness and figure out what the hell's going on here. In Fontana, California,
Also known as Fontucky.
a man was arrested after he called the police to report that his father was missing after going for a walk with his dog late at night in August of 2018. The dog returned home without his father, which made the victim here, Thomas Perez Jr., call the police to be like, hey, my dad's gone. I don't know what's going on. So detectives bring Perez in and tell Perez that his father is dead.
Oh.
They
found him dead. They've told him that he's been found dead.
He is found dead, and here's the actual line. His father is dead, and he wore a toe tag at the morgue. They said they had evidence that Perez killed his father and that he should just admit it now. Perez insists that he didn't remember killing anyone, but detectives tell him that the human mind often tries to suppress troubling memories. At one point during the interrogation, the investigators bring in his lab retriever and tell him that they're going to have his dog euthanized as a stray, and then said, okay, your dog's now gone, forget about it.
So
they
they
told
said
him that
he murdered his dad, and
that
we're going to kill your dog.
We're going to kill your dog unless you admit to all of this. So they leave the dog in there with the cell, and eventually, they go, how can you sit there? How can you sit there and say you don't know what happened? Your dog is sitting there looking at you, knowing that you killed your dad. Look at your dog. She knows because she was walking through all the blood. Finally, after curling up with the dog on the floor, Perez broke down and confessed and said he stabbed his father, multiple times with a pair of scissors during an altercation in which his father hit Perez over the head with a beer bottle. Sounds absolutely insane, right? Because none of it happened. His father was alive. They didn't have the body.
Where was his father?
Alive. Around.
He just lost the dog and the dog came back?
So the guy gets taken to a holding cell and he tries to commit suicide. And then he ends up getting transferred to a mental hospital for 72-hour observation. And then Perez's father wasn't dead or missing. He was at the international airport waiting for a flight to see his daughter in Northern California, but police didn't immediately tell Perez.
So he was still in holding? They had him in prison.
Oh, they knew he was alive the whole time.
Why?
Because they're sick bastards. He is now $900,000 richer.
He should be more than $900,000 richer.
I would probably add a zero to that. $9 million richer.
Yeah, his lawyer sucks.
I cannot. This is such an unhinged story.
They said they said that his father was dead and they'd seen the body when they hadn't done any research or hadn't done any investigation, hadn't even looked.
No, they just lied.
Just he's dead. But he wasn't dead.
But he wasn't dead.
Here's how it's being spun by the cops and the police department involved. In court documents and deposition, police say they had reason to believe Perez was lying. They said he seemed distracted and unconcerned during the 911 call. Officers responding to the call knew the father's cell phone and wallet were still at the home, which was in disarray. They saw the sign of a struggle, but said Perez was renovating the house and had argued with his father about it. Additionally, a police dog sniffed out the scent of a corpse in the father's bedroom, and there were small bloodstains in the house. The bloodstains were caused by the father's finger pricking diabetes tests.
So they just saw a messy house. They found a little bit of blood, never found a body, and was just like, yeah, you killed him. He's dead because you killed him.
This is the kind of thing that you would see happen in a movie. I would never in a million years think that this is the way that this would go. Again, this is not to excuse the police. In missing person and murder cases, the first 48 is a real thing. So there is pressure to get that done, but you don't do this. You lie a little bit. That happens. That's part of interrogation. You obfuscate circumstances. That happens quite regularly. It's to put pressure on somebody mentally to get them to slip up, make mistakes. That's a tactic that's used. Telling them they're going to kill their dog and that their father is dead, that's a little different.
It's a lot more than just a little bit of lying. And then they found him and he was still kept in holding for at least a little bit. Is that just because of the suicide attempt, or they were just like, "Oh, we found him"?
No, they kept him afterwards because of the suicide attempt,
which they caused.
Yes, and they
better pay for all his therapy.
Yeah, I would imagine they should pay for a lot. So
That's
there's your unhinged story of the day. I just had to share because it's absolutely nuts. Vancouver Ford text line, folks. If you're ever in an interrogation situation, even if you know you're innocent, say lawyer and nothing else. Yes.
Yes. Every time.
Anytime it says, hey, a cop says that this will be easier for you, they mean it'll be easier for them. That's what they mean. I got a lot of friends that are cops. The cops that I know in my life are good dudes, great at their jobs, and I love them and I respect them. There are bad ones out there, as we are seeing very often. If you ever find yourself in these situations, lawyer, and am I free to go?
Better call Saul.
That's how it goes. Here you go. Here's the biggest pivot in sports radio history, from unhinged near murder case to Autotown GMC presents the 10th annual Fan Golf Classic at Langdon Farms Golf Club. Thursday, July 11th is the date, and you do have morning and afternoon rounds still available. However, the afternoon round is almost full. Again, the afternoon round is almost full. That's how this works. That's the one that goes first because everybody wants to have a few pops on the course and then hang out for the rest of the day. Matt's Barbecue's back to serve their award-winning food in the usual way of craft beverages, and Victor Rico's Mexican food is also back with their famous breakfast burritos, and my God, I can't wait for that. Starting a day with a big, heavy, solid, tasty breakfast burrito with that red sauce. They have the best.
So yummy.
They have the best red sauce in fast food. It's not close.
Are they spicy red sauce?
It's a spicy, dry, peppery red sauce.
I gotta go green then.
Oh, it's so good. It's not like overwhelmingly spicy.
I have to do this when I go to Mexican restaurants.
Be a coward?
A little bit. I have to get both the green and the red, and I have to do a little dip in both to figure out which one I can handle and which one I can't.
If you're having trouble with fast food hot sauces,
Well, it's not something that I'm doing often.
You were a child.
I'm only doing it when I'm heading to Victor Rico's and getting a nice burrito.
Good Lord. All right, well, you can warm up the round for your round on the Michelob Ultra driving range, and Dirt and Sprague, Dusty and I, and Isaac and Suk will all be broadcasting live and on location at Langdon, and we will rotate through the par 3 6th, brought to you by Doers. Well, we will just have a grand old time. Let's be honest. As soon as I get off air, I'm just going to park at the 6th hole.
I was going to say, you're going to make friends with a certain brand of alcohol again.
Indeed. Tequila.
I was impressed with how much of that you handled. You did well.
Yeah, well, it's a once-a-year thing, so I feel like I can get a little sideways. Sign up for your foursome at 1080thefan.com. Coming up next, Caitlin Cooper of Basketball She Wrote will join us to talk Pacers and Celtics, whether or not the Pacers have a chance with a healthy Tyrese Halliburton, if Tyrese Halliburton is going to be healthy. Coming up next here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Out for the week. Be back on Wednesday. Jeff Russ behind the glass. Will Ordner in for him. We appreciate you all. We love y'all. Whether you're listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080am or twitch.tv/1080am. We are now joined by Caitlin Cooper, Basketball She Wrote, one of the best writers, covers, analysts, people in basketball, not just the Pacers, but she just happens to be, an adoring lover of Pacers basketball. Caitlin, thanks for taking some time for us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a while since I've gotten to talk to you up in Portland, and now with the Pacers at the forefront of the Eastern Conference, I get a chance to again.
I would say that the Pacers are probably in a better position going forward than the Portland Trail Blazers. That is for certain. Unfortunately, they're now down 0-2. We do not currently know the status of Tyrese Halliburton going forward. We're going to pretend like Tyrese Halliburton is going to be okay, and that's the assumption we're going to go with as of now. What have you seen in these two games that gives you hope, at least if Hallie is ready to go and at least 85 to 90% capable, that the Pacers can come back in this series?
I think in game 2, while I prefer to typically celebrate winners, and Jaylen Brown gets a lot of credit, obviously, for scoring 40 points in that game, there was a lot of confused coverages from the Pacers against him in particular, where you would have seen, if Pascal Siakam was his primary, he was trying to force Jaylen Brown to his left at the same time as when Tyrese Halliburton was defending the screener, he was going to jump out and try to hedge. That's creating a wide open driving lane for Jaylen Brown to be able to get to his spots. So it was almost like for people to envision that they were running two different pick and roll coverages at the same time. Clearly that's not what the Pacers want. You want them to at least be on the same page. And then, hey, if because of some of the soft spots they have in certain areas of the defense, if you get beaten that way, you live with it rather than having communication errors. Then at the other end of the floor, the Pacers need to win the minutes when Al Horford and Luke Cornett weren't playing. The Celtics made the adjustment to go small, obviously did a lot of switching in that game. That's going to be the best coverage against the Pacers. And I felt in terms in kind of my coverage today that I felt that they played tall rather than they played big in a lot of those minutes. And while it isn't necessarily what you think of with Miles Turner to be punishing mismatches in the post, he has improved at that over the last roughly year and a half, and last night it just didn't really show up for them in the way that they needed it to.
Caitlin, what can the Pacers do defensively? Not just, you went into detail about how they would try and throw different coverages at Jaylen Brown, but it felt like Drew Holiday and Derek White were having big games for role players for the Celtics. What are the Pacers going to do to help slow down some of the role players like Drew Holiday, like Sam Hauser, like Derek White, Peyton Pritchard as well, that could maybe put them a leg up where the Boston has to only rely on Brown and Tatum?
It almost feels like for the Pacers, it's kind of like when you imagine that you're trying to patch holes and then you end up springing another leak. That's kind of what it's like to play the Celtics. So there's times where I've wished that they flipped the matchups and they'd put Pascal Siakam on Jason Tatum and put Aaron Nesmith on Jaylen Brown, because Jaylen is more agile, whereas Jason plays with more power. But if you do that, then you're taking Pascal Siakam off of Drew Holiday. And when they've taken him off of Drew Holiday, then Drew starts kind of going into bully drives against Tyrese Halliburton, against TJ McConnell, against Ben Shepherd. I think some of it with Derek White in yesterday's game went back to, if your pick and roll coverages are better, then Derek White's not popping out to the three-point line and getting quite as many open shots. Or if you're not committing two to the ball accidentally in some of those spots, he's not being wide open behind the three-point line. So some of it just stems from what the initial primary coverages are, then leading into more negative effects from that. I think if you have to, I think that they're probably going to be willing to live still with some of what Drew's doing in some of those bully situations. But if he gets rolling again, you could potentially double in some of those spots. Those are things that I've seen the Pacers do. You guys up in Portland would have seen that towards the end of the game that the Pacers played when Jeremy Grant started walking various mismatches into the post in that way, where they've sent doubles. So they have options. They can still toy with some of the matchups, I think, that might put them in a few more favorable spots.
Caitlin, zooming back out to 30,000 feet with this Pacers team, they obviously they make the move for Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese Halliburton's emergence as a lead ball handler initiator has been huge for the franchise. But the role players have shown up. Obi Toppin has been a guy who's been really solid for them. Ben Shepherd, as a rookie, has made impactful appearances up and down this roster. I think if you had said coming into this season, even under the best circumstances, wouldn't have made it this far. Regardless of what happens in this series, what are your kind of expectations, hopes, dreams, thoughts on this Pacers team kind of going forward?
Yeah, I think broad strokes, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, because it's very hard for NBA teams to win and also get development. And that was showing up in the playoffs even as early as the Bucks series, where they had trimmed their rotation down a bit and Ben Shepherd was still in the top 8. And then you're watching Andrew Nembhard in the starting lineup next to Tyrese Haliburton, and he started the season behind the pecking order, kind of getting squeezed by Bruce Brown, until ultimately they were like, you know, what's better for our roster is to start Andrew Nembhard, use him at the point of attack, use him as a secondary ball handler so TJ McConnell can run wild with the bench. And you've seen Andrew, like, not only just making, you know, the game winner in the prior series against the Knicks, but also making individual strides where you're seeing his handling getting better. You saw in last night's game, he was one of the few people that when Boston was switching, that he actually challenged Jason Tatum's defense and forced him to defend in isolation, you know, getting off the ball, getting it back, and re-attacking Jason Tatum. So for the Pacers to be able to come out of this and be able to say, hey, we advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals and some of our young guys played critical roles and actually also continue to get better, that's huge. And then I think, you know, going back to Tyrese and Pascal, toward the back end of the regular season, the two-man game was kind of non-existent between the two of them, because in a lot of circumstances, Pascal is guarded by the opposing team's best wing player. If he screens for Tyrese, that's just bringing a tougher defender for him. And Tyrese isn't the most physical screener. And that was kind of, too, where you could see the absence of Buddy Hield, as, you know, Buddy could have been a bridge between them. But I think in Game 6 and 7 against the Knicks and in Game 1 against the Celtics, you kind of started seeing them doing more two-man game interactions where Tyrese has become a little bit more physical, and they're finding ways where they can empty out a side of the floor and not necessarily have to filter it to the weak side and do the very, you know, Pacer-specific brand of basketball, which is play very egalitarian. That's great, but you also want to be able to empower your two best players to go against the other team's two defenders, and I think that they've started to show some progress in that area as well.
What are you expecting the Pacers to change or maybe do more of offensively that seemed to work in Game 1 and maybe even in Game 2 that would help them take advantage and maybe get a win or two at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest change is that after halftime of Game 1, the Celtics were very quick to cross-match and move defenders around. So Al Horford was guarding Pascal Siakam. Pascal was pretty effective as a screen and roller toward the back end of that game. Then the Celtics, to start Game 2, that's what matchup they went with. So that really marginalized Miles, and I don't think that the Pacers need a lot from Miles potentially going, you know, one-on-one against Tatum and Brown, which is who his primary assignments were. That being said, if the Celtics are going to continue with this much switching, I do think that if he gets a mismatch against Derek White, you need to see more there than like a one-legged fadeaway jumper. Or if he's standing there and like Andrew Nembhard puts up a three and Derek White standing beside him, you don't have to punish a mismatch in the post. Another way to punish it is on the glass. So, you know, really get physical, kind of try to push Derek White up under the stanchion, try to get a board there. Those types of things I think can help boost the offense because, like I said, the best way to defend them typically is switching, and then they can get a little bit overly reliant on Tyrese making step backs, and clearly, you know, depending upon what his status is, that might not be an option. So they're going to need to be looking to the interior matchup, because that was clearly like one of the most palatable stretches of that game was like the last 3 minutes before halftime when Miles actually got into foul trouble. They were playing Pascal and Obi kind of at nominal 5, and Pascal, you know, really started going at some of those smaller defenders, including Drew, including Jaylen Brown, including Tatum, and scored the final 10 points to put the Pacers within 6 at halftime. So I think that they're really going to probably have to look at those interior matchups because Boston is so good at buffering on the perimeter and keeping the ball out of the paint.
We're joined by Caitlin Cooper, creator of Basketball She Wrote. You can find her on patreon.com, on Twitter at C2_Cooper, if you want to find her work. Caitlin, this has got to be at least a fun series or a fun season for you covering this team, and especially this deep playoff run, regardless of what injuries or what has ever happened or transpired that allowed or enabled or helped or greased or however it wants to be framed. What are kind of the surprising things that you've seen come out of this run from this Pacers team that are not only applicable to this run, but can be applied going forward?
Yeah, man, I think it's just some of the individual stuff from players. Like I pointed it out after Game 7 against the Knicks to see Aaron Nesmith have that type of a performance. He talked last summer and was like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be better at putting the ball above the break and I'm going to be better as a screener. And, a lot of times players talk about things that they want to get better at. Sometimes they materialize, sometimes they don't. And you're watching it live in the second round and he's hitting several, pull-up twos against hard closeouts from the Knicks and seeing him develop and putting the ball on the floor with his left and being able to get to the rim. Like he's still going to be rough around the edges, but in that particular game, the edge was there and it was somewhat of a dagger for the Pacers to maintain that lead in the third quarter to the degree that they did. So to see certain guys like that look like, hey, that's a critical piece of the way that the Pacers want to play and what they want to do stylistically. I think that that's been a joy anytime you get to see players succeed and get better at things that they've aimed to improve at. And certainly, Tyrese, unfortunately, has this hamstring issue, then we'll see what the extent of it is. But like watching him get back to where he was during the in-season tournament and just prior to the in-season tournament and looking like the more healthy version of himself, and Pascal finally getting to play with that player. Because I don't know how many people that weren't actively watching the Pacers know exactly the extent that Tyrese was still looking limited from that hamstring, and then also dealing with how their offense kind of changed and what role he had to take on once Buddy Hield was traded. So to see them both playing at the degree that they're capable of playing at the same time is definitely things that I'm going to take away as down as joy from having been able to cover this season.
Caitlin, thanks for taking some time for us. We appreciate you. Good luck to the Pacers. Hopefully they get some good news on Hallie. Hamstrings are always not great to see. Not non-contact stuff is always not great, and it's been a hell of a run, and your coverage on it has been fantastic.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, anytime.
Thanks.
We will check back in with you. Hopefully, if the series keeps going, as the Pacers maybe pick up a win or two at home, and we'll check back in with you. That's Caitlin Cooper, creator of Basketball She Wrote. For those that, if that was your first exposure to Caitlin, she's brilliant. She's one of the best people in basketball. I don't throw that around flippantly. She's incredible at what she does. She's probably one of the best film breakdown people in the entire industry. It's probably her and Tim Legler. For the people who are able to take film, digest it, and make it usable for people to truly understand in a very comprehensive and not necessarily simple, but digestible manner.
Right.
She knows the game inside out, up, down, left, right, anyway. If you want to get smarter about basketball, follow her on Twitter. It's at C2_Cooper, and subscribe to her Patreon. That's Basketball She Wrote. So a lot of good stuff there on the Pacers and Celtics, which we will dive back into coming up here next year on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. Really?
So that's where this song comes from.
God.
I just see Anchorman right now. This is awesome.
It's the first time I've ever talked basketball to Afternoon Delight. That's 100%.
Your Afternoon Delight cherry, huh?
My goodness.
I knew that there was a song for the Anchorman one. Like, I'm not that dumb, but I just never took the time to find it.
Yeah.
Don't they play it?
They
No,
sing it.
he sings
No,
it.
I
They
know that,
sing
but,
it.
like,
They don't play it.
I thought they like played. I thought it was in like the credits or something.
Maybe in the
Maybe,
credits, sure,
but yeah, I'm not paying attention by that point.
Anyways,
No touching of the hair or face.
Celtics and Pacers.
That escalated quickly.
It's 2-0. We had Caitlin Cooper. God, I finally did it. Everyone tags her as Caitlin Clark because she's in Indiana named Caitlin and covers basketball.
CC.
Caitlin Cooper of Basketball She Wrote, fantastic job, answered our questions 80 times over. Talking about the different ways in past for the Pacers to find impact on both sides of the floor and the certain issues and problems that the Boston Celtics cause because they are such a deep team and they still don't have Porzingis back.
Yeah, the other thing with this Boston team that runs into a problem for the Pacers is the Pacers are at their best when they are going fast. And ironically enough, I feel like the Celtics team is at their best when they're going fast because then they don't have to think about it and there's more space. So the drive and kick almost works a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of how they operate. They're a bicycle wheel, just a hub, and
they want to go fast. They want to drive. Yeah. They want to kick. And when they try and slow everything down, that's when they get into struggles. So it's like almost the best attribute of Indiana plays right into Boston.
Indiana wants to play faster. They want to play at a speed that's breakneck,
Mm-hmm.
but that's now going to be in question. Tyrese Halliburton did suffer a hamstring injury in the third quarter of last night's game. If he's out there, I mean, they're fried. He's their engine.
Was there a play? Like, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, you see him, and it looks like it's upper hamstring, like at the base of the butt, right in the butt.
He hurt his butt.
Because he extends his leg fully out, but his legs are like 45 degrees to the ground.
What?
So it's more. Yeah, it was at 45 degrees to the ground. That's a good drop. Well, you're keeping that one.
It's a great drop.
What?
Girl, you something else.
But you can see him reach for the hamstring, but he doesn't do the hamstring like behind the knee.
Yeah,
he does like the one at the
he grabs the butt.
The butt, and that hamstring has been something that's been bothering him all season. His hamstring and lower back, which they're connected. If he's out, I mean, they're cooked. That's just, and in the path for the Celtics, yes, it is soft. Yes, it's simple. I was digging into this a little bit. I was going to maybe write about it, but now it doesn't have as much staying power for the Blazers as it does for the radio, in the sense of the East, not just this year, has been in not disarray, but chasing its own tail for 24, 25 years.
Well, it's been the weaker division or weaker conference that since I can remember.
With the exception of LeBron, there has been no staying power for anyone. Giannis might be the closest thing, where in the last 2 years, because he's been injured, that has been the downfall of their team.
Yeah.
Where if they're both healthy, the Miami Heat aren't making it out of the first round against the Bucks. That's not happening.
Right.
Are we insane? It's not a thing.
Yeah.
And then again this year, the Pacers, they make it out of the East there. You had the 2019 Raptors season, which where did Kawhi Leonard come from?
San Antonio.
In the Western Conference, right?
Yeah, and went right back.
And where was LeBron James?
He was
Not
in the Western Conference.
In the East.
Yeah.
So these little blips that have popped up in the East are the post-LeBron or the pre-LeBron rise, the 2008 Boston Celtics. Yeah. Otherwise, the West has dominated for 25 years. and the way and possibility to build a team. And this isn't to take away from the Pacers or the Celtics' success or even the Pacers. But it does highlight how easy it is to just rise to the top. The Knicks out of nowhere. The Pacers out of nowhere. The Hawks out of nowhere. Look in the West. How many of those teams are really doing that? You had the Grizzlies, but then they suffered a few injuries and then they get knocked back. If you are not great, you get knocked back. The Kings, third last year.
Yeah. This year won a play-in game.
Yeah, and there you go.
Barely got in.
And you take a look at, and I'm not saying this to discredit the Celtics. I'm saying this as a matter of like, what the Celtics are doing is both great, but also there isn't. I don't want to say an asterisk because an asterisk is not fair to them. It's not fair at all.
Are you going full Boston sports guy? Like
no,
it doesn't even count?
No, it absolutely counts.
Why have a parade?
But what I'm wondering is, why can't they get over the top? If because they have been there every year essentially.
Right, they've at least Eastern Conference Finals. I want to say is it 7 of 9?
Yes,
for Tatum and Brown.
Brown. Yeah,
they have been there 7 of 9. Well, early on they were young, right? So I'd have to go back through the years, but they were young and they ran into other teams that had more experience and beat them. They had the year where they got in to go and play Golden State, but again, young. I think this is where, and I think this is why you're starting to hear the narrative of Tatum not being a finisher kind of come out, because they've now been together for 7 years. They've now been, deep in the playoffs. It seems like year after year after year, and they're not getting it done. It gets a little bit of a feel of LeBron in Cleveland, where because you're there so much, you almost become a victim of your own success. Like, we always see you in these moments, but then for whatever reason, you don't capitalize, whether it's you're too young, you miss some shots, you have bad games, your team isn't even that good, you just happen to be there because you were that good, or you and your partner in crime were that good. I wonder if it becomes a victim of their own success, or a victim of like their league conference being so weak that they get to the successful point, and then in reality they're just not a good enough team to take that next step. Or like last year, like it felt like Miami was a team of destiny kind of deal. Like Miami just matched up perfectly with you, and who was supposed to know that Martin was going to turn into one of the best players for all 7 games of your series?
There's certainly a team of destiny point because of the way they shot the ball and the certain guys getting hot in series that you're like, what the hell? What's
Martin
going on
looked like an all-star
for
2 weeks.
Gabe Vincent. I mean, he parlayed that into real money with the Lakers that didn't play basketball essentially this year. But also the Celtics fell on their face.
Right.
It wasn't just a team of destiny. They got humiliated. They got, which, look, I have my beef certainly with Miami fans. I don't think there's any argument there. I enjoyed watching them dog walk the Celtics last year.
Yeah,
it was fun. But at the same token, if Tatum and Brown are supposed to be these guys, even if Halliburton's healthy, they have got to find a way to win this series handily, and then go in and not just be. If they go to the NBA Finals again and lose, and it's not a failure of a season, is it a disappointing season as a team that went in with the number 1 overall record and made it to an NBA Finals again? As difficult as that is, it's very similar to the Trailblazers teams.
I think Boston would actually call this a bust of a season. The way they're talking about this team, and
no, it is in the sense, but it's not a failure because making the NBA Finals is very hard, and we have to stop devaluing it.
Right. The problem is they've already done that. Like I agree with you. You made it to if they win this series, you made it to the NBA Finals. You can only play the teams that you went against.
Yes. And I don't hold that against them.
Others will. And I also think that if they don't win at this point, it's what, 7 and 9? Is that the number that for the Eastern Conference Finals? There then has to become probably a change. And probably a change at the top. because Giannis is going to come back. That Milwaukee team, you would have to expect, is going to probably figure it out or at least get close, right? Pacers
Can
are
Philly get healthy? Will they
Right.
add Paul George?
Pacers are only going to get better.
Does Miami do
Orlando's
something? Orlando's probably going to get better. Cleveland's probably going to take a step back.
New
but
York's going to get healthy.
you would think, unless stuff happens.
Right. And this is an NBA offseason where there's a lot of people who could become free agents or become free agents next year. And guess what they're all doing this summer together? They're all going to France to play in
And
the
they're all
Olympics
plotting.
again.
Yeah, they're all plotting their next
This is
moves and-
exactly what happened in 2008 and why the Miami Heat team was able to be created. It's why the whole super team era happened.
Yeah,
It's
the Olympics.
They went to the Olympics and they got to have fun together.
Yeah,
and they got
a lot of fun was had.
And they got to become best friends. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen in this group, but would it shock
It's
you
going
if
to
history repeated
happen.
itself?
Although
right.
you don't have the thing about this Olympic team that is interesting is there's not many young guys. It's all the old heads.
Yeah, because they want one last run.
Yes, they want one last run of relevancy. But the next group in 4 years,
Right.
almost all of these guys are gone.
But a lot of the young guys too, like Booker's going to be on that team.
Yeah.
Ant's going to be on that team. There's still going to be. I mean, Bam. He's not old, but he's
in his
not
prime.
young.
Yeah,
you know, he could be a person that maybe is on the move. Or in Miami, they're going to find a way to build around him. So it feels to me, you're starting to see a lot of narratives about this team not being able to finish because they've been a victim of their own success. And now at this point, you have to win this year, or you really get they are really good, but not good enough to win the big one. And it will taint their legacy because you really just need one. We don't talk about Dirk this way because Dirk had a 2011 playoff run where he became the best player in the world for a 2-month stretch.
Yeah.
And now Dirk doesn't have to get the Charles Barkley, oh, you never won a ship.
No.
Never won one.
And then that's the thing is that
They have to have it.
You get the stamp. And I've talked to Dame about this, and that's why Dame was okay ultimately with going to Milwaukee. He knew he had a legitimate chance at winning a title. Because that's the thing that they when you get to a certain level and you get to a certain age, it happens. Dame was not a guy who years ago was like, I have to have it. Like it's going to define my. But you get to a certain age and you look around and you go, I have to have this, and that's what kind of leads to that change. So, the legacy of this era of Celtics, I don't know if it's on the line, but if they want to get to a point to where it's not just a blip on the radar and they aren't remembered like a better version of the Atlanta Hawks, then
it's
the way you want to go.
It's the difference between being like an early 2000 or 90s Blazer team and being a Detroit Pistons or a Houston Rockets.
Yeah, you're a footnote as opposed to the title on the page.
You got one.
Yeah, you're on the Wikipedia page with the clicked-in link of title. You know what I mean? That's what matters.
And you need it. You need it. And this is the best year to do it. You need to get it done.
Coming up next, we are a couple weeks past the NBA Combine now. NBA pre-draft workouts are underway, and there's some risers and fallers. We'll take a look at ESPN, Yahoo, and a couple others. Who could be going where, and where could the Blazers possibly take advantage? But first, here's the Big Kahuna with a Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals tonight in Minneapolis. The Timberwolves looking to even the series with the Mavericks at 1 apiece. Mike Conley questionable again with a lingering Achilles injury. Luka Doncic is probable as he continues to deal with left ankle soreness and a right knee sprain. 5:30 tip on TNT. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 5 o'clock. The Timberwolves are 5.5-point favorites. After dropping their last 2 in the Bronx and settling for a series split with the Yankees, the Mariners start a 3-game set at the Nationals. George Kirby on the hill for Seattle, Mackenzie Gore for Washington. 3:45 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners still holding a 3-game lead over the Rangers in the American League West. Round 2 of the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. Davis Riley starting to run away with things. He is 6 under on the day through 15 holes, leaving him at 10 under overall. He is 3 strokes clear of Hayden Buckley. Tony Finau tied for 12th at 4 under par. That's 6 strokes off the pace. Scotty Scheffler shot a 5 under 65. He is 3 under. tied for 15th. And Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final in the NHL. Rangers looking to even the series, hosting the Panthers. Puck drops at 5 o'clock on ESPN. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Just a little under 5 weeks away from the NBA draft. There's movers and shakers already. Confirmation that Stephon Castle is trying to avoid workouts with teams in the lottery that already have an existing point guard. Stephon Castle, the guard, off-ball guard / wing with the title-winning UConn Huskies, rated number 3 overall prospect by Kristen Peak over at Yahoo Sports, and number 6 overall by ESPN with Wu and Givney. It's an interesting draft that we've talked about so much in the sense of the inconsistency of at the top and the lack of star power. And so it's very much an eye of the beholder, and you're going to see a lot of change, a lot of different opinions. The way that I have gone about this is believe what you believe, and then you make informed decisions based on intel. Alex Sarr and Zach Rizachet, 2 French prospects, Sarr playing in Perth in Australia, Rizachet for JL Borg in France, are more often than not considered the top 2 prospects and will likely go 1 and 2 in the draft. 3 is kind of your first inflection point, and whether it's Donovan Clingan or if it's his teammate Stephon Castle, it's an interesting proposition. You start getting to that number 5, number 6 spot. Yahoo right now, Kristen Peak has at 4, 5, and 6 as her top prospects: Manas Buzelis, Ron Holland, Donovan Clingan. She is significantly higher than the masses, I would say, on Buzelis and Holland than anyone else. But she also has Tijan Saloon, number 8 overall in her big board. This is not a mock. These are big boards, which they can vary because of fit or belief. Okay. She has Rob Dillingham all the way down at number 10 and Nikola Topic at number 9. This kind of shows you the variance that you can see in this, in the stacking of it all. If you go to ESPN, they have theirs behind the paywall. Their top 10 are Sar, Rizachet, Clingan, Shepard, Buzelis, Castle, Dillingham, Connect, Topic, Saloon at 10, and then Holland and Cody Williams at 12. Going to 14, it's Devin Carter and Jacoby Walter. On Yahoo, Dalton Connect, Cody Williams, Jacoby Walter, Jared McCain round out the top 14. You're seeing essentially the same names, but a lot of variance in where and how they are slotted. And that's what's going to be so interesting, is that you're going to have risers, you're going to have fallers. Stephon Castle putting it out there that he doesn't want to go to a team that has a point guard in place. That's either a very interesting tactic of trying to get yourself slotted into a spot where you could be the starting point guard, which is, for a guy who didn't play point guard in college, is kind of a bit of a stretch. But also, it could be considered a great way to get yourself to San Antonio.
I was about to ask you
join
that.
Victor. Look, I'm telling you right now, there are veteran players in the NBA that are trying to find a way to get to San Antonio.
Right.
Because they know what this guy is.
And also, like, they know what they need in San Antonio. You need a guard who can handle the ball, and one, can get their own shot and can be a shooter, but more specifically, can find a way to get entry passes to Wembanyama. At first, when you start off the segment and you're like, hey, like, this is what's going on with Castle, I was like, that's kind of dumb. Like, he's not good enough to do that.
And yet...
And then
it's
like
like try to be dictating a landing spot to San Antonio.
It's a sneaky genius thing. And also, you know what else he does, and what he does at an exceptional rate that everyone loves about him? He plays unbelievable defense. You could have a legitimate Drew Holiday type guard playing defense. Right. Who's playing point guard or shooting guard. He can guard any of the best guards that you're going to go and face. And then you can have literally the biggest freak defender of all time in Victor Wembanyama. That's how you build championships. You have two players that you can build around. And I'm not saying that Castle's going to be a star, or far from it. It's supposed to be one of the worst drafts ever, if not the worst. But it could be a very important building block for a team like San Antonio, who is going to go and try and get a guard. I think it's a sneaky genius move.
No, it is. In the past, this was the way you could control this, was to withhold your medicals. That's no longer a thing that you can do. You get slotted based on how teams view you coming into the combine. And if you're the number 1 pick, you don't have to share your medicals with everybody. I think it's the top 10 or the top 8, and then kind of goes further and further down of which teams you have to. Now, because Castle was listed as basically somewhere between 3 and 7, he had to share his medicals with everyone. So everyone has a hold of his medicals. So you can't use that as a leverage thing. Like Scoot Henderson did not share his medicals with everybody last year.
Right. Well, he also knew he didn't have to.
Well, if there was going to be a draft day trade, teams wanted to be able to get their eyes on that stuff. So, if they wanted those, they would have to be greenlit. So it's an interesting spot for 5 weeks out, the jockeying positioning. You're starting to see some relative consensus around 1 and 2. I think at 3, you're looking at mostly consensus, and I think at 5, you're looking at mostly consensus. However, there has been a very substantial change. Trajan Langdon was just hired to be the president of basketball operations for the Detroit Pistons. Manas Buzelis was a guy that has been kind of mocked there a ton, and I've heard a lot of conversation like, the people that are in power right now really like that. Troy Weaver may not be in power going forward.
Right.
Because Trajan Langdon is appointed above him. He may want a new head coach and a new GM. There was a story out from James Edwards, who's the beat reporter for The Athletic for the Detroit Pistons, who mentioned that Tom Gores, the owner of the Detroit Pistons, has basically said, you have all the cash you need to go ahead and say goodbye to anybody. If you want to start with a clean deck, you get to start with a clean deck.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with doing that as a GM right out of the gate, now they're your guys.
Yeah,
and
now-
you can't fire that guy. I'm like, well, I need to bring in my guy.
It's not my fault. I need
You-
an extra 2 to 3
Yeah,
years.
you usually only
It's,
fire one. You fire a coach or the executive. You don't usually, because you got to keep yourself a fall guy. Who else can you blame if the guys that are there are yours? But does he like Buzelis? Does he prefer somebody else? Does he like Ron Holland? Does he like Reed Shepard? And he wants to move on from Jaden? I mean, like, there's so many different ways that hire has the chance to be a major spark point, as well as look at Charlotte.
Mhm.
Charlotte, okay, let's look at the teams that are in place, right? Number 1 overall, you have Atlanta. We don't know what the hell they're going to do with their guards.
Right.
One of them is likely getting traded, Trey or DeJounte Murray. So that's probably not a place that Castle would go anyways. Washington does not have a point guard unless you want to, squint. So that could be a potential landing spot. But I don't expect them to go Steph Castle. At pick number 3, Houston. They've got 3 guards, and they may even look at another one and Reed Shepard. It's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Pick number 4, San Antonio. That's your first spot for Stephon Castle, right? Okay. Pick number 5, they've got Cade Cunningham. They've got Jaden Ivey. They've got a glut of guards there.
Yeah.
So
they don't need you. Yeah.
But do they perhaps take him and trade Jaden Ivey? I don't know. But do you want to tempt that with Stephon Castle? Now you get to number 6. They've got LaMelo Ball. So does Castle want to go there? No.
And they've committed to Melo.
You go to 7. Portland has Scoot and Anthony and Malcolm, and they're going to make changes there. But does he want to come there? No. So now you come to 8, which is again the San Antonio Spurs. So they may be able to take whoever the hell they want at 4, and then get Castle at 8.
Well, and that's kind of, I mean, he's what, 6th in most mock draft
He's
projections?
3rd in Yahoo, and
Third in Yahoo.
I could see him going as high as 3.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, if he's 6, like, that might be something that they do, or maybe they, they move up with Portland. Portland moves back.
But this, if
he might have found his way to San Antonio.
Yes,
and it's beautiful, but it's also why he's so good defensively.
He's
He's smart.
It's the value scaling
He's
of this
smart.
draft, and that's the thing about this is that drafting outside of the top 1, where I think Sarr is the safe. Like, if you draft Alex Sarr, you're not getting fired. Because everybody looks at it and goes, that's the safest pick in this draft.
Right.
Everywhere else from 2 through 10, nobody knows. Nobody knows. And if having another pick further back that allows you another opportunity, which the Spurs and the Blazers both have with 4 and 8, and then 7 and 14. That allows you maybe a little bit of leeway, a little bit of an opportunity to kind of squeeze something else out of there in a lottery. Everybody's kind of like throwing their hands up. So. It's an interesting spot 5 weeks out, and we'll get more and more into it as we get closer, and we have more in-person workouts locally that will probably shape the face and status of who Portland is and isn't looking at. All right, we're going to keep it in the basketball world as Draymond Green cannot stop himself from being stupid. We'll get to that and more. Coming up here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. As we wrap up this week's show, I wanted to reach out to the world of dumb. I love Draymond Green as a player. He is becoming a shell of himself as a player and as a human being, understanding literally anything at all at this point in time.
He's old.
Look, man, I get old and angry, but my God, I at least keep it within the boundaries of normalcy. Draymond on the big podcast with Shaq, there was a clip that came out of that where he said that the 2015 Warriors were going to beat the 2001 Lakers, which no, they're not. No, they're not. Dre, you're not guarding Shaq ever. You're probably not guarding Shaq now. You're not. 420-pound Shaquille O'Neal is putting you in a blender, and there's nothing you can do about it. And no, Andrew Bogut is not going to be able to do anything about it because no one has ever been able to do anything about Shaq. That's the whole point.
That's why everyone says he was the most dominant.
He's the most physically dominant player in sports history. We talked about this off air yesterday.
Right.
It's between him and Gretzky.
Yeah.
And Gretzky's was, it's not this, he's bigger, faster, stronger. It was just no matter what you did, his was unstoppable. He was inevitable. And everybody talks about, well, the goalies were different and there's more opportunities. Then how come nobody else in that time period put up remotely anything he ever did?
Yeah, I mean, your closest is Mark Messier, and it's why he's the great one, right? But what I think here, and I think this is what drives a lot of people away from NBA talk or basketball talk just in general, is these stupid things get said all the time. Draymond knows that he could not stop Shaq. He couldn't guard Shaq. He knows he can't do that. But what he's doing is he's saying it because he knows he'll get clicks and people will view it and people will roast him. And he's on the total wave of, I don't care if it's good publicity, bad publicity, or whatever publicity. I just want publicity. That's why he's doing this.
Yeah, he tipped it off today. The clip is the NBA is not actually set up for us to be wealthy after we're done playing. And one of the points he made with this is that the fines don't make any sense. The taxes that we pay. Oh my God. So the thing that is punishment actually isn't setting me up for success. No crap. That's the point, dummy.
Again, I don't think he's
kicking people in the nuts is not enabling me to make more money. It's like, yeah, it's a punitive measure. You whole dumbass.
See, again, I think he's smart. I think he's doing this because he knows it will get clicks and get views, and that does better for his new job.
No, people are not going to click on this. They're literally going to read the subtitles, drag him, and move on.
He's going to, but that's the thing. Then people drag him. Like right now, you've come up and you've talked about it, right? There are millions of people who listens to this show.
This
right?
is not going to get him more clicks and more views. I'm telling you, there's level. This is
if you're talking about it, you are a NBA personality with a bunch of followers.
I'm telling you, as somebody who works in this specter, it does not matter.
The industry, dude, I'm telling you, he is smart. He knows what he's doing.
No,
he's not.
It does not matter. I'm telling you,
he's gonna get the clicks he wants.
It does not generate this stuff does not generate clicks through. It doesn't. Nobody's going through and listening to this. They're taking that clip and they're running through it on social media.
And it trends on social media, and that's what he wants. It's Skip Bayless. No one watches Skip Bayless's show.
And again,
it's the same thing.
And where has Skip been?
Skip again, but
falling down and falling down and falling down and falling down.
But he makes a lot of money and he got a bunch of big contracts.
You're not going. Those guys don't work anymore. Because people don't tune in to watch those guys anymore.
Then why is Stephen A. the highest paid guy at ESPN?
And where is ESPN at ratings wise?
Right. I mean, look, I don't like it either.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't.
This
like
is
it
a
either.
guy who 3 years ago was on a path to being different.
No,
and then he went down the new media path, which is same as the old media from 25 years ago.
Which is I just say outlandish stuff.
Yes.
People click on it, and then woo.
And you're watching his decline both on and off the floor at the same time. And I love Dre. It's wildly stupid to think that this is like part of some, not you, but him like collectively thinking this is part of a grand scheme to prop him up. Because the people that are successful in this industry, and particularly his industry, the former player realm, are the ones that aren't doing this.
I agree. Like the ones that we like are Shaq, it's Chuck, it's Kenny. It's guys who aren't making outlandish hot takes. All that I am saying is I think that he is doing it on purpose because he thinks that is what is going to get him.
I think you're giving him far too much credit for a guy thinking that far out ahead.
And maybe I am. I just know that because I know what clip you're talking about. I clicked on it for at least 10 seconds and I went, wow, you're really dumb, and I turned it off, right? But most people are going to get that click and go, wow, he's really dumb. Or, hey, I can drag him and be like, you're really dumb, or you're being disingenuous.
He
here.
made a
You know what it
comparison to
is."
his mother making $100,000 and taking her 4 years to do that, and him being fined that much as somehow being a problem for the NBA. Sir, you make $25 million a year, and I don't care if after taxes that you only take home 12.
He's just being disingenuous.
Yes, across
he's,
the board.
He's
and that's-
100% being disingenuous, and he's trying to do it because he thinks it will get him more clicks. It'll get him trending. And if he is trending, then more people will be like, well, I don't have to agree with your opinion. You just get views, so here's money.
So there's your old man shaking fist at cloud segment for the Friday. Everybody go out there, have a safe, happy, clean, whatever you want Memorial Day weekend. Don't do anything dumb. Take care of each other. If you're going floating or doing anything along
Wear a
those
life
lines,
jacket.
wear life jackets. All of the things.
Buy an Uber.
Buy an Uber. Do all of the things you're supposed to do. Have fun. We will catch you back here on Tuesday. We will not be here on Monday. You can listen to the station. We appreciate you. We love the business. I won't be here. Dusty won't be here. He's still in New York. You won't be here.
I will not be here.